Hello. Welcome back to another stream. My zero viewer audience. It's been a little while. I've been gone, just taking a break. Been watching some shows, just relaxing, working on getting some things put together so that way I can get started on making some YouTube videos. Still waiting on a mic for that, but once that gets here, I'm gonna try and get started. It's been a fun process so far. But anyway. Today I wanted to go over the State of the Union address. I know it's a little late to the party, but got to do my American responsibility. So yeah, and then after that, there's the memes or not the memes going around, but like the different videos going around, different clips of the Kitty Britt State of the Union rebuttal, which was pretty funny. And then we'll probably play some Valheim and just chill out until then. But we'll see. It just depends on how long it takes to finish up with the State of the Union, which is a little over about an hour and a half. So we'll see how long it goes. So might as well get started. Hopefully it's not too loud.
Good evening. Good evening. If I were smart, I'd go home now.
Same. Go to the dumpster that I live in.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans, in January 1941,
I saw a bunch of funny clips going around of Mike Johnson. He just sitting there, staring, just shaking his head.
I address you in a moment.
Shaking my head. SMH my head.
Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. President Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people that this was no ordinary time. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world.
Get some knee pads for these poor reporters.
I come to this same chamber to address the nation. Now,
maybe they can borrow a pair of
we
mine.
who face an unprecedented moment in the history of the Union. And yes, my purpose tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment either.
Joe Byron.
Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today.
True.
What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time. Overseas.
It's funny how the underpinning this whole State of the Union is the whole America, Joe Biden's presidency abating and effectively aiding in the Palestinian genocide, but and critical support, I guess.
Putin of Russia is on the march.
I apologize if my commentary or anything isn't very biting. I'm tired. It's been a little while since I was doing this, and I don't know if I'll have much to say about the State of the Union, but I want to go over it anyway because I feel like it's important.
In Ukraine.
I mean, obviously, the right wing is not freaking out, but they are trying to clown on Joe Biden. From what I understand, from what little bit I've seen of the State of the Union, and I've seen some already, Joe Biden was actually pretty aggressive, so it might have. Anything can piss off conservatives or make them scared or whatever. They live their lives in perpetual fear. They all have to have catheters installed at birth because they just constantly piss in their pants. But yeah.
Going chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not.
Do you really have to sacrifice?
Oh God, are there actually gonna be ads? Okay, hold on one second. If I knew there was gonna be ads.
Came to this chamber to speak to the nation.
Oh God.
And he said, I address you at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. President Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people.
It's just also funny that, like, you know, Biden's sitting here talking about the threat to democracy and whatnot. And we have literal fucking traitors in the room with him that he just refuses to do anything about for some reason. And anyone refuses to do anything about for some reason. Literally one of them is standing right behind him. So, yeah, it's kind of funny, you know? Cosmically funny.
That this was no ordinary time. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world. Tonight, I come to this same chamber.
I barely
to address the
recognize
nation.
any of these politicians either.
Now,
Let's see how many times he
please
stumbles,
face
by the
up
way. I
President
know he
Obama
stumbled a lot in this, but
and
I
history of the
want to see how bad it
And
is.
yes,
Slurs
my
his
purpose
speech a lot.
tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment either. Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas.
He looks like he's always struggling to read very tiny text that's on the wall, like
Putin of Russia is on the march.
like he's getting his
invading
eyes checked.
Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not.
There are a lot of people that wish he, or that hope he doesn't in that room. I gotta stand up.
Ukraine can stop Putin. Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine and provide the weapons.
Yeah, people, please let's not forget that Ukraine still needs our help, please. Ukraine really does. You know, we need to fight the tide of fascism that's trying to wash over Europe through Putin. I know there's more going on than just Putin, but he's definitely at the forefront of it and spearheading it. So let's not forget about aid to Ukraine, please.
It needs to defend itself.
Push for that as much as you push, you know, well, you know, I don't know. It's not a competition, so advocate
That
for
is all.
support for Ukraine as much as you can.
That is all Ukraine is asking. They're not asking for American soldiers. In fact, there are no American soldiers at war in Ukraine, and I'm determined to keep it that way. But now, assistance to Ukraine is being blocked by those who want to walk away from our world leadership. Wasn't long ago.
Wasn't like the border crisis bill? Didn't that include aid for Ukraine and then Republicans killed it? Personally, I don't know how a president in a situation like this, like Joe Biden, can sit in a room with these people and just try to play civil. I don't understand it. You know, they deserve to be called out, ridiculed, mocked. They deserve to be, you know, aggressively attacked for their, you know, anti-democratic, fascist beliefs. Their bigotry, their hate, you know, all that good stuff needs to be pointed out. And it's just, it's hard for me to wrap my head around how Joe Biden can literally just sit here all the time and never point anything like that out. Any of the horrible shit that his constituency or the people here have done, you know.
When a Republican president named Ronald Reagan thundered, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this
Reagan,
wall."
the epitome of the perfect president, the icon of democracy and fair treatment.
Now my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote. A former president actually said that, bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable.
He's also the president that, well, you know. Oh, stand. Sorry. I stand. I stand.
America is a founding member of NATO, the military alliance of democratic nations, created after World War II to prevent war and keep the peace. And today, we've made NATO stronger than ever.
NATO
Welcomed
strong.
Finland to the alliance last year.
NATO's strongest solder. Yes, Sweden
this
recently
morning,
joined NATO too. That's
Sweden
good.
officially joined, and their minister is here tonight. Minister, stand
Let's
up.
go, Sweden. Let's go.
Welcome. Welcome, welcome,
So the
welcome.
whole world will be NATO. One can only
And they
hope.
know how to fight. Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to NATO, the strongest military alliance the world has ever seen. I say this to Congress, we have to stand up to Putin. Send me a bipartisan national
I'm
security
kind of
bill.
watching Johnson here.
History is literally watching. History is watching. If the United States walks away, it will put Ukraine at risk. Europe is
This
at
is
risk.
true, you know. A lot of the world
will be
looks
at risk,
to
emboldening others to do what they
America.
wish to do us harm. My
God,
message
those are
to
such
President
big
Putin, who I've
fucking
known for a
chairs
long
that come
time, is
on
simple.
Mike
We
Ring.
will not walk away.
Are you obligated to
We will
stand
not
when
bow
you're in this
down.
room? I don't think you are, but
I will not bow down.
Nancy Pelosi looking
In a
like she's
literal
melting.
sense, history is watching. History is watching. Just like history watched 3 years ago on January 6th, when insurrectionists stormed this very Capitol and placed a dagger to the throat of American democracy. Many of you
Johnson.
here on that darkest of days.
Johnson looks so put out by this. He looks so upset that Joe Biden is bringing it up. He looks so irritated and frustrated. He's just like, oh my god, oh my god. Keeps pointing it out. I mean, not that pointing it out really does anything, because, you know, the people who support Mike Johnson are in support of Jan 6, so it's just funny.
We all saw with our own eyes the insurrectionists were not patriots. They'd come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people. January 6th lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy since the Civil War.
He looks like he's
But they
cringing.
failed. America
No claps
stood.
from Johnson. He looks so irritated. He's like, they fit. Oh, God. He looks so embarrassed. He looks like somebody bringing up, like, it looks like his aunt bringing up, like, you know, how he used to shit his diapers till he was 10. Like, yeah, no clapping. Before you could see him clapping under the desk. He wasn't standing up, but you could see his arms, like, moving. Now he's just sitting there, like,
Stood strong.
seething and
And
coping.
democracy prevailed. We must be honest. The threat to democracy must be defended. My
Defend the
predecessor,
threat.
some of you here,
Death
sought
to
to
it.
bury the truth about January 6th. I will not do that. This is the moment to speak the truth and to bury the lies. Here's the simple truth. You can't love your country only when you win.
Oh my god. I fucking hate Johnson. He's such a little snake. I hate him. Oh, he's clapping. Okay. He looks annoyed clapping. Oh.
As I've done ever since being elected to office, I ask all of you without regard to party to join together and defend democracy. Remember your oath of office is defending against all threats.
I just want to say, like, I'm so fucking sick of this, like, both parties have to play together shit. Like, I know the ideal is, like, moving bipartisanly on every issue. You know, there's the American dream, or the not the American dream, but, like, the perception that, like, we should respect the presence of both parties, and as an extension of that respect for both parties, like, we should be, I don't know, like, this tolerance for the existence of, like, both parties. I don't know, it's just the Republicans and conservatives are so, like, blatantly anti-democratic. They're so blatantly, like, far-right, right-wing fascist extremists that it's hard to, like, I don't know, it's hard to tolerate having any conservative Republican, any form of governance and any position of governance or power, because their ultimate goal will always be, you know, I mean, eradication of minorities, the removal of human rights, the oppression of the lesser, of those they deem lesser. And so it's like, I don't know, I've had this argument with, not argument, but I guess this discussion with people before. It's like, should we, after a certain point, should we really be tolerating the existence of of, a party like the Republican Party is today. I mean, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I would have been in the same camp of like, well, we have the Democratic Party. We have to have both, parties to represent both points of views, both perspectives. But at the same time, it's like the party as a whole, the party in its entirety has gotten to a point where you can't tolerate it, and it just makes me wonder, like, what's the threshold? When are we going to draw the line? Is it? I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I know that, like, I don't know. Do we dissolve the party? Do we remove it from its place of legitimacy? I understand that America is the two-party system is very embedded into America's like political systems and whatnot, but it still feels like it gets to a point where we kind of can't tolerate that kind of opposition anymore. I don't know. It's just, I don't want to use terms that I don't understand fully, but the Overton window has shifted, and both left-leaning people and right-leaning people have been more what's the word, radicalized over time, especially in recent years. But like, you're not gonna run into any like violations of human rights by allowing the extreme left like more representation, but you're definitely gonna run into like extreme violations of human rights by allowing representation of the of like the far right. And I don't know, it's a matter of freedom of speech. I don't think you should be thrown in jail for having these beliefs or whatever, but at the same time, I don't think you should be given any credence in legitimate systems of power. So,
and domestic. Respect free and fair elections. Restore trust in our institutions. And make clear political violence has absolutely no place in America. Zero place.
Lady.
Again.
Never mind. Excuse me, I'm burpy right now.
It's not hyperbole.
Mike Johnson is doing this all with like gritted teeth.
Is watching. We're watching. Your children and grandchildren will read about this day and what we do.
You know what? Kamala Harris doing a fantastic job as a backdrop piece. Greatest work she's ever done since becoming the vice president. God, I keep peeking. I'm sorry.
14 months ago, she and her husband welcomed a baby girl thanks to the miracle of IVF. She scheduled treatments to have that second child. The Alabama Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state, unleashed by a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. She was told her dream would have to wait. What her family had got through should never have happened. Unless Congress acts, it could happen again. So tonight, let's stand up for families like hers. To my friends across the aisle, don't keep this waiting any longer.
Again, I hate this, like, I don't know. I'm like, you should try to extend an olive branch where you can, but it's kind of like, well, what's the point of extending the olive branch when like every Republican is just gonna smack it out of your hand? You know what I mean? Like, Biden is sitting here saying to my friends across the aisle, like, let's work together on passing legislation to enshrine like rights to abortion, rights to IVF, things like that. But like, the Republican Party just doesn't have an interest in that. Even the Republicans who are nominally in support of things like reproductive rights and reproductive care, they only do so insofar as optical considerations. They don't really, on a moral or ethical principled level, they don't want that stuff. And like, even if they do right now, once the party line shifts again, like, over time, these people, they're just going to keep falling farther and farther down the right-wing extremist hole. It's just going to take, I guess, more time. And it's just, it just kind of like, it confuses me why bother reaching across the aisle like that. Like, that's counterproductive. You should always keep yourself open and receptive to discussions and new ideas, and you should try to be flexible and adaptive and open-minded and things like that. But I don't know, I guess it comes back to the concept of like, what is the term again? It's like the paradox of tolerant intolerance or something like that. It's it's just confusing to me. I don't know why you. I don't know. It's a struggle that I personally have where I'm just like, well, these people don't want anything to do with that, and it's like you could discuss with them and try to reach some sort of middle point, but the middle point is so much of a compromise that you as a like a progressive or whatever lose out more in the end than you gain, and the the right wing person or the right wing party or whatever gains more than they lose out, because even just the smallest win for them is a huge loss for us, you know what I mean? So it's I see things like Biden being like trying to reach across the aisle, so to speak, and it's just like, well, what's the point? Most of the people there who are Republican, they don't support you Biden directly. They openly don't support Biden. They openly want trans people, black people, Mexican people, all those people. They want them dead. They want them removed or deported or anything like that. So it's confusing to me. And I see things like this, and it's just.
Guarantee it nationwide.
I mean, I agree. We should, if that's what it takes to, I don't know, if that's what if I guess reaching across the aisle on this is what it takes to get, reproductive rights enshrined so that the Supreme Court and all their fucking ivory tower, gold gilded toilet, power can just overturn it, but I don't know.
Like most Americans, I believe Roe v. Wade got it right.
Roe v. Wade.
Thank Vice President Harris for being an incredible leader defending reproductive freedom.
Oh my God.
So much more.
The fact that he would say that when Kamala Harris, like, the one video that came out after Roe v. Wade was overturned, and she's just standing in her living room like, oh my God, this is just so tragic. And then when she's interviewed about it later, she's just like, well, it's awful, and we really should enshrine reproductive rights, flexing none of the power that she holds. I know the vice president he doesn't exactly hold the most power, but it's like, come on. Like, you're sitting here just gesturing at, like, what should be done instead of making any actual effort to get it done, which is, it's just funny to hear Joe Biden be like, Kamala Harris, my fucking blank, stiff 4x4 of a vice president, was just such a staunch warrior for reproductive rights here. And okay.
My predecessor came to office determined to see Roe v. Wade overturned. He's the reason it was overturned, and he brags about it. Look at the chaos that has resulted. Joining us tonight is Kait, the wife and mother from Dallas. She's become pregnant again and had a fetus of a fatal condition. Her doctor told Kait that her own life and her ability to have children in the future were at risk if she didn't act. Because Texas law banned her ability to act, Kait and her husband had to leave the state to get what she needed. What her family got through should have never happened as well, but it's happening in too many others. There are state laws banning the freedom to choose, criminalizing doctors, forcing survivors of rape and incest to leave their states to get the treatment they need.
Yeah, this is very, direct on Biden's part, which I appreciate. It's very good, very aggressive, very pointed. Yeah, it's very good. Why don't we do something about that, huh? Why don't we do something about the whole state's rights to decide whether or not, people have the right to reproductive health,
Many of you in this chamber and my predecessor are promising to pass a national ban on reproductive freedom. My God, what freedom else would you take away? Look,
oh God, they got a list for you.
Decision to overturn Roe v. Wade.
They got a list for you. It's very easy to find if you just look at Project 2025 on Google.
The majority wrote the following, and with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that.
I don't like any of the justices, honestly. Like, I know the best one there is, like, Ketanji Brown or whatever, but I don't like the Supreme Court. Not the members specifically, but just, like, the... Like, dude, you just serve forever.
Those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women. But they found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot. We won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024.
Woo! Woo! Let's go, Dark Brennan! Forget about the genocide, man. Let's go, Dark Brennan!
If you, the American people,
Ignore the genocide.
send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
Ow. Oh, God. He's so old. Oh, God. By the time we get to the 2024 election, he's going to be looking like the fucking mummy with scarabs and flies crawling around on his desiccated corpse.
America cannot go back. I'm here to
Someone get fucking, what's his name? Fucking Fraser or whatever, Brandon Fraser. 4
years ago next week, before I came to office, the country was hit by the worst pandemic and the worst economic crisis in a century. Remember the fear, record losses. Remember the spikes in crime.
I will say, like, Trump and his I am infected by the Biden virus. Trump and his constituency were the ones mostly responsible for the poor pandemic response. That's not something that, I don't know, like, I wouldn't really blame Biden for any of the, well, I wouldn't say any of the negatives, but I wouldn't really blame Biden for the vast majority of, like, the negatives that came, or the negative impacts that came as a result of the pandemic, you know, things closing down, people losing their jobs, whatever. So, you know, Trump and his cohorts, his little fandom, will try and blame Biden for all that. It's you know, it's, I don't know, going over it, it feels kind of redundant, where it's like, you know, Trump blaming Biden for all the bad things while also, you know, gassing himself up, being like, oh, we have the most jobs, and, you know, inflation was the best in my time, you know, crime, whatever, you know, and you look at it, and you actually look at it, and it's like, okay, Trump was actually the worst for all this. In fact, he was, you know, out in the streets actively, like, kicking baby strollers over, or, like, hitting single moms, but, in his Rolls Royce, but, you know, just don't like conservatives or Republicans try trick you with that.
The murder rate, raging virus, it took more than 1 million American lives, of loved ones, millions left behind. A mental health crisis of isolation and loneliness. A president, my predecessor, failed the most basic presidential duty that he owes to American people.
Johnson in the background, shaking his head, rolling his eyes. Oh my God. Oh Lord, oh my God. Johnson is such a little fucking, a little snake, a little bitch boy. God. It's so funny. Shaking his head.
I think that's unforgivable. I came to office determined to get us through.
I wish Biden would have called him out.
Periods in the nation's history.
Like, literally, like, turn him and be like, little baby, little bitch boy, little baby, you're shaking your head, don't like that, don't like the truth, don't like me pointing it out, ooh, little baby, you gonna cry, gonna pee your pants.
We have.
Gotcha.
It doesn't make news, but news in 1,000 cities and towns, the American people are writing the greatest comeback story never told.
Okay.
So let's tell the story here. Tell it here and now.
Ow.
America's comeback is building the future of American possibilities. Building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down. Investing in all America, in all Americans, to make sure everyone has a fair shot. And we leave no one behind. The pandemic no longer controls our...
I just turn the heat on. It's kind of chilly in here. There we go.
Our lives. The vaccine that saved us from COVID are now being used to beat cancer.
The Fauci ouchie.
Setback into
the jab.
That's what America does. That's what America does.
One shot, two shots.
Folks, my inherited economy is on the brink. Now our economy is literally the envy of the world. 15 million new jobs
Aren't we
in
always
just
the
3
envy of the
years.
world? We
A
are
record.
America, after all.
A record. Unemployment at 50-year lows. A record 16 million Americans are starting small businesses, and each one is a
Mike
little-
Johnson is just sitting there thinking about all the porn that is, you know, that him and his son watch together. He's like looking at his fucking Fitbit, like, God, you know, checking his, you know, doing the daily check-in of his son's Pornhub search, just being like, BBW. My son's not got the best taste. Maybe, you know, the apple's fallen quite far from the tree. Maybe someone fucking chucked it, because goddamn.
act of hope. With historic job growth and small business growth for black and Hispanics and Asian Americans, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America and counting.
Stand up.
Where is
Stand up,
America
Kamala!
can't be the manufacturing
Kamala!
capital of the world. We
Stand
are,
up!
we will.
Try not to puke. I'm
More
sorry.
people have health insurance today.
Ah.
Before. The racial wealth gap is as small as it's been in 20 years. Wages keep going up, inflation keeps coming down. Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%, the lowest in the world, and tending lower.
Stand up, Kamala!
The landing is and will be soft. And now, instead of importing foreign products and exporting American jobs, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs.
Yes,
Right
yes,
here in
let's go.
America, where they belong.
There's a split in my hair that I'm seeing on the camera that is driving me up the fucking wall.
And it takes time, but the American people are beginning to feel it. Consumer studies show consumer confidence is soaring. Buy America.
Why?
The law of the land since the 1930s.
Why Johnson looks like he's holding in like he looks like he's got the sickest, nastiest shit he's ever had in his life brewing right now, and he's just kind of like bearing down, trying to get through the pain, just like oh, I should not have had that calamari. Oh my god.
Past administrations, including my predecessor, including some Democrats as well in the past, failed to buy American. Not anymore.
Obama.
On my watch, federal projects that you fund,
Obama, I think.
like helping build American roads, bridges, and highways, will be made with American products and built by American workers.
Let's go.
Creating good-paying American jobs. And thanks to our CHIPS and Science Act, the United States is investing more in research and development than ever before. During the pandemic, a shortage of
Something I will personally never forgive Obama for. And you know what? It's been a while since I looked this up, so maybe I'm a little misinformed. But something I will never, ever forgive Obama for is cutting research on or cutting funding on stem cell research. Because that shit is so, like, important, I feel like, personally. Like, just being able to, like, grow artificial, like, human body parts, organs, obviously, like, you know, limbs, things like that. It would be such a fucking, like, crucial medical advancement that it seems like it's gotten, like, kind of just put on the back pedal over these past. And I know that there's, like, literal, like, physical, biological limitations to what we can do right now, especially in, like, technological limitations. But I feel like if Obama hadn't done that, Obama Cube, hadn't done that fucking, you know, way back when, you know, we'd be in a much better place with it now. I don't know, but that's a personal vendetta.
Conductors, chips that drove up the price of everything from cell phones to automobiles. And by the way, we invented those chips right here in America. Well, instead of having to import them, private companies are now investing billions of dollars to build new chip factories here in America, creating tens of thousands of jobs. Many of those jobs paying $100,000 a year and don't require a college degree. In fact, my policies have attracted $650 billion in private sector investment in clean energy,
Billions.
advanced manufacturing, creating tens of thousands of jobs here in America.
Billions must work.
And thanks to our bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you have strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I like it. I'm with
Okay,
you.
that girl's fit on the right there is fucking iconic. I love it.
That money coming in. I like it.
I love glasses from
I'm with
this.
you.
So beautiful.
I'm with you. If any of you don't want that money in your district, just let me know. Modernize our roads and bridges, ports and airports, public transit systems. Removing poisonous lead pipes so every child
That's pretty
can
funny.
drink clean water without risk of brain damage.
Oh my god, yeah. I don't know, the lead pipe thing is kind of funny because you know there's gonna be some motherfucking boomers out there that are like, why they're taking away our goddamn lead pipes, you know, I was growing up, they just built character, okay, build up an immunity against the poisons, you know, it is. The lead pipe, you can't take it from me. Don't take my lead pipe. I'll give you lead pipe when I turn into fucking Iron Man, okay?
Providing affordable high-speed internet for every American, no matter where you live, urban, suburban, or rural communities, in red states and blue states.
Country girls and country boys will no longer have to make do.
Record investments in tribal communities. Because of my investment in the family farms, because I invested in family farms led by my Secretary of Agriculture, who knows more about this than anybody I know.
I would hope
They're
so.
able to stay in the family for those farms so that
Is
their
there-
children and grandchildren won't have to leave
Whoa, okay. I just want to make sure there is audio.
leave
Okay.
home to make a living. It's transformative. The great comeback story is Belvedere, Illinois, home to an auto plant for nearly 60 years. Before I came to office, the plant was on its way to shutting down. Thousands of workers feared for their livelihoods. Hope was fading. Then I was elected to office, and we raised the Belvedere repeatedly with auto companies, knowing unions would make all the difference.
I will say that Biden has
UAW
been
worked like hell to
actually
keep the
pretty
plant
good
open
in terms of like
and get
workers'
these jobs
rights
back,
and
and
unions and
together
stuff
we
like that.
succeeded.
So
Instead of auto factories shutting
that would be
down,
nice if it wasn't paired
auto
with the
factories
genocide
reopening and
thing.
new state-of-the-art battery factories
you
being
know.
built to power those cars there at the same.
Dude, Mike Johnson and people that support him and whatnot, they love to wash their hands with goddamn oil, okay?
The folks of Belvedere, I say, instead of your town being left behind, your community is moving forward again. Because instead of watching auto jobs in the future go overseas, 4,000 union jobs with higher wages are building the future in Belvedere right here in America.
Stand up, come on, let's go. Get a fucking workout, Jesus.
Here tonight is UAW President Shawn Fain, a great friend and a great labor leader. Shawn, where are you? Stand up.
Let's go, my man. Let's go. I actually like this guy. He's pretty cool. Let's go.
And Dawn,
An ironic standing clapping.
and Dawn Sims, a third-generation worker.
He must be cool.
UAW worker at Belvedere. Shawn, I was proud to be the first president to stand on the picket line. And today, Dawn has a good job in her hometown, providing stability for her family and pride and dignity as well. Showing once again, Wall Street didn't build America. They're not bad guys. They didn't build it, though. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class.
Please don't forget about the poor people, because the poor people also built this country. And in fact, one might even say the poorest people, slaves, built this country.
I say to the American people, When America gets knocked down, we get back up.
I get knocked down,
We
and I
keep
get back up
going.
again. You're never
That's
gonna keep me
America.
down. Oh, Lord.
That's you, the American people. It's because of you America's coming back. It's because of you our future is brighter. It's because of you that tonight we can proudly say the state of our union is strong and getting stronger.
You know, I can't wait to get a better fucking.
Tonight, I want to talk about the
Gas
future
him
of
up.
possibilities that we can build together.
Careful, don't give him, you know, don't stroke his dick too hard. He'll be sleepy or jail if you're not
And the
careful.
wealthy and the biggest corporations no longer get all the tax breaks. And by the way, I understand corporations. I come from a state that has more corporations invested than every one of your states in the United States combined.
I don't know.
And I
what state
represented it for 36 years. I'm not anti-corporation.
I wish you
But I
were.
grew up in a home where trickle-down economics
You
didn't
don't wanna
put
be
much
too
on my
based
dad's
on
kitchen
Biden.
table. That's why I determined to turn things around so middle class does well. When they do well, the poor go way up and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well. And there's more to do to make sure you're feeling the benefits of all we're doing. Americans pay more for prescription drugs than anywhere in the world. It's wrong, and I'm ending it.
Healthcare's strongest warrior. Dude, no one should be paying for medicine. I feel like I shouldn't have to say this. Medicine, healthcare in general is just, it's a human right. It's something we'll always need, you know. Even in a world where most people are perfectly healthy, which God knows we don't live in that world, healthcare would still be necessary, you know. So, again, it goes without saying, nobody should be paying for it. It should just be provided. Like food, like fucking transportation, shelter, all that. It should just be provided to you.
With the law that I proposed and signed, not one of you Republican buddies voted for it.
Let's
We
go.
finally beat Big Pharma. Instead of paying $400 a month or thereabouts for insulin with diabetes, and it only costs $10 to make, they only get paid $35 a month now and still make a healthy profit. And I want to, but what to do next? I want to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for every American who needs it. Everyone.
I mean, it's something. I don't know. I have a diabetic mother. I have a diabetic grandmother and grandfather. Like,
People have
I mean,
talked
it's not a
about
bad
it, but
thing.
finally we got it done and gave Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices on prescription drugs. Just
good,
like
but
the VA
it's-
is able to do for veterans. That's not just saving seniors money, it's saving taxpayers money. We cut the federal deficit by $160 billion.
Only dude wearing a mask. On God, for real. What a god. What a champion. Oh,
Because
Bernie.
Medicare will no longer have to pay those exorbitant prices to Big Pharma.
Bernie, you
This
deserved a
year,
better
Medicare
life.
is negotiating lower prices for some of the costliest drugs on the market to treat everything from heart disease to arthritis. It's now time to go further and give Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for 500
I feel like I'm
drugs over
so
the next
far away
decade.
from my fucking camera.
They're making a lot of money, guys. And they'll still be extremely profitable. Will not only save lives, it will save taxpayers another $200 billion.
I think goes without saying profit should not be the first
Starting
consideration.
next year, the same law caps total prescription drug costs for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a year. Even for expensive cancer drugs that cost $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. Now I want to cap prescription drug costs at $2,000 a year for everyone. Folks, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but if you want to get an Air Force One and fly to Toronto, Berlin, Moscow, well, even Moscow, probably. And
What?
bring your prescription.
I didn't.
I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but if you want to get an Air Force One and fly to Toronto, Berlin, Moscow, well, even Moscow, probably. And bring your prescription with you, and I promise you I'll get it for you for 40% the cost you're paying now. Same company, same drug, same place. Folks, the Affordable Care Act, the old Obamacare, is still a very big deal.
Didn't really say that. Okay, it's getting quiet.
Over 100 million of you can no longer be denied health insurance because of pre-existing condition. But my predecessor, and many in this chamber, want to take this prescription drug away by repealing Affordable Care Act.
Obamacare.
I'm not going to let that happen.
God, Mike Johnson literally just seething and coping this whole time. Oh my lord.
In fact, I'm not only protecting it, I'm expanding it. We enacted tax credits of $800 per person per year, reduce health care costs for millions of working families. That tax credit expires next year. I want to make that savings permanent.
Okay.
To state the obvious, women are more than half our population, but research on women's health has always been underfunded. That's why we're launching the first ever White House initiative on women's health research.
Wait, I'm sorry, hold on. My fucking...
Population. To state the obvious, women are more than half our population, but research on women's health has always been underfunded. That's why we're launching the first ever White House initiative on women's health research, led by Jill, doing an incredible job as First Lady. We'll pass my plan for $12 billion to transfer women's health research and benefit millions of lives all across America. I know the cost of housing is so important.
Get him some water. God damn it.
If inflation keeps coming down, mortgage rates will come down as well, and the Fed acknowledges that. But I'm not waiting. I want to provide an annual tax credit that will give Americans $400 a month for the next 2 years as mortgage rates come down, to put toward their mortgages when they buy their first home or trade up for a little more space. Just for 2 years.
Just for 2 years. Only 2 years. I'm not going to pretend I understand tax credits.
And my administration is also eliminating title insurance on federally backed mortgages. When you refinance your home, you can save $1,000 or more as a consequence. For millions of renters,
I don't know how
we're
refinancing
cracking
works.
down on big landlords who use antitrust law, who break antitrust laws by price fixing and driving up rents. We've cut red tape so builders can get federally financing, which is already helping build a record 1.7 million new housing units nationwide. Now pass and build and renovate 2 million affordable homes and bring those rents down. To remain the strongest economy in the world, we need to have the best education system in the world.
True. Yeah, education in America kind of fucking sucks. You know, I grew up in Idaho, and I can tell you right now that the people, you know, there are places where education's really good, but the people who are really getting the short end of the stick here in America in terms of education are really getting the short end of the stick. It feels like rural and inner city schools kind of suffer the most by this. Just, I mean, it's, you know, this is just an assumption because I've heard a lot of those are the two primary, like, I guess, fields or I guess areas of schools or whatever that I hear the most about in terms of having, like, well, yeah, those are the ones that I hear the worst things about when it comes to, like, the poor education. But yeah, no, the education system in America is really fucking awful. It's bad. It needs reform really bad.
And I suspect all of you, want to give every child, a good start by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old.
A lot of them don't want that. In fact, they actively work against it. They want homeschooling and nothing but homeschooling of private schools.
I think I pointed out last year that children coming from broken homes where there's no books, they're not read to, not spoken to very often, start school, kindergarten, or first grade, having heard 1 million fewer words spoken.
This is true.
Well, studies show
you gotta read to your
children who
kids.
go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school, go on to earn a 2- and 4-year degree, no matter what their background is.
You gotta read to your kids. You gotta get them to read themselves. You gotta do some work, you know. Kids will really struggle if you don't do these things for them because they rely on adults.
I met the leaders of the Business Roundtable. They were mad that they were angry. I think, well, they were discussing why I wanted to spend money on education. I pointed out to them as vice president, I met with over 182 of those folks. Don't hold me to the exact number. And I asked them what they need most, the CEOs. And you've had the same experience on both sides of the aisle. They say a better educated workforce, right? So I looked at them, and I say, I come from Delaware. DuPont used to be the 8th largest corporation in the world. And every new enterprise they bought, they educated the workforce to that enterprise. But none of you do that anymore. Why are you angry with me providing you the opportunity for the best educated workforce in the world? And they all looked at me and said, I think you're right. I want to expand high-quality tutoring and summer learning to see that every child learns to read by 3rd grade.
Not a bad thing.
I'm also connecting local businesses and high schools so students get hands-on experience and a path to good-paying job, whether or not they go to college.
That is something that I think, like, here in America, we suffer from quite a bit, is just, like, a lack of hands-on experience until it's a little, until it's a little too late and you're ending up as, being thrown to the wolves. Because, like, I didn't get any hands-on experience in high school with, like, the workforce or anything until I was already working. And, that kind of leaves kids floundering a little bit. Intimidates them a lot, especially when they start having an income. Kids, teenagers, kids, whatever you want to call them, are going to end up, using their money frivolously. They're going to be spending it on, silly things. Some of them, not all of them. There are a lot of them that will, that are working to support their families. So they'll end up saving their money or giving it over to their parents to use or whatever. But yeah, no, hands-on experience. I feel like it also strengthened the sense of community of high schoolers. Just kids in general, which is really important. We're so isolated these days, and just having that kind of, going out, having that experience, you interact with a lot of people, learn to socialize a little bit better, you get closer to your community, you feel more, at home, and, it's not the case for everyone, but, I still think it's a valiant goal to achieve, especially in, not everyone wants to be part of the community, but I think it's good. I think it's good for kids to be doing that.
And I want to make sure the college is more affordable.
College should be free.
Let's continue increasing the Pell Grants to working and middle-class families and increase record investments in HBCUs and minority-serving institutions, including Hispanic institutions.
That Nancy Pelosi looks so fucking
I was
weathered
told
and
I couldn't
old.
universally just change the way in which we dealt with student loans. I fixed 2 student loan programs that already existed to reduce the burden of student debt for nearly 4 million Americans, including nurses,
Which is
firefighters,
based.
and others in
I
public
can't deny
service.
that. It is based.
Like Keenan Jones, a public educator from Minnesota.
It's always funny, too, because, like, when this has been talked about, because obviously it's been talked about a lot, it's happened a few times where Biden's put forward, like, these forgiveness plans, these student loan forgiveness plans. And I can speak from experience on this one, a little bit of anecdotal evidence for you. You know, a lot of Republicans were against the student loan forgiveness, even though a lot of them suffered from that same, you know, debt. You know, a lot of older generations, you know, and it like my mom, for example, she went to college, she went to school, you know, she had a lot of student debt, and I won't say whether or not, you know, I wasn't, you know, made aware to my family's finances growing up, but she definitely had student debt, and it weighed her down a lot, and, you know, or weighed her down a lot, and so, you know, when Biden first, you know, kind of like went out and was saying that he was going to be, I guess when he first campaigned with the student loan forgiveness thing, my mom, who did go to school, she had college debt, things like that. She eventually paid it off. A lot of Republicans share this sentiment where even though they suffered from it, they thought it was a stupid idea. They made fun of Biden for it. A lot of them were saying, like, no, like, part of the, you know, college experience is accruing that student debt and paying it off over time because it instills a sense of responsibility or some stupid shit like that. It's like, you know, it just kind of demonstrates that it's really the attitude of, like, you know, forgiveness for me, but not for thee, I guess. If my mom still had student debt by the time this rolled around, I'm sure she would have been more than happy to. Sorry, this part in my hair that I see is pissing me off. But anyway, I'm sure she would have been more than happy to partake. But, you know, conservatives are always saying that it's like a giveaway, it's a handout, it's, you know, it teaches people to be lazy, and it's the socialism, the communism, where everybody gets a free pass on everything. And, you know, it's just, like I said, it's an anecdotal thing, but yeah, Republicans are absolutely against, like, student loan forgiveness because they want people to be shackled by debt, because it brings them into poverty, it keeps them from moving up in social circles, or economic status, things like that. You know, people actually making a living is a threat to, you know, the rich and the powerful and the wealthy, which a lot of Republican politicians are, because, you know, they bake backroom deals and have blood money and all that good stuff. So it's just, yeah.
Who's here with us tonight? Keenan, where are you? Keenan, thank you. He's educated hundreds of students so they can go to college. Now he's able to help, after debt forgiveness, get his own daughter to college. And folks, look. Such relief is good for the economy because folks are now able to buy a home, start a business, start a family.
That's true, you know, and you're not having to worry about this crippling student debt, you know. Then you can afford other things. You can invest your money in other things, you know, like exactly like Biden is saying. You can put that money towards a home, put that money towards your child's education, put that money towards a lot of different things. Debt in general just isn't good for anyone. It's not good on a personal level. It's not good on an economic level. People who are burdened and dragged down by a debt they don't help the economy. They don't invest in the economy. They don't invest in the well-being of the economy or anything like that, because all their money is being siphoned towards paying off that debt instead of being diversified into a lot of different things. And it creates a problem for everyone, you know.
While we're at it, I want to give public school teachers a raise.
Yes. Queen. Slay Biden.
Slay Biden.
Yeah, public school teachers need a fucking raise. Jesus.
And by the way, the first couple of years, we cut the deficit. Now, let me speak to the question of fundamental fairness for all Americans. I've been delivering real results in fiscally responsible ways. We've already cut the federal deficit. We've already cut the federal deficit over
I
$1
hear him
trillion.
getting hackled.
I signed the bipartisan deal. We cut
I hear
another
him getting
$1 trillion
hackled
in
by
the
the
next
hacker
decade.
man.
It's my goal to cut the federal deficit another $3 trillion by making
again.
big corporations
Oh,
very
God,
wealthy,
Mike Johnson.
finally beginning to pay their fair share. Look, I'm a capitalist. If you want to make or can make $1 million or millions of bucks, that's great. Just pay your fair share in taxes.
Capitalism is cringe. Sorry, Bo Gyron.
Fair tax code is how we invest things to make this country great. Healthcare, education, defense, and so much more. But here's the deal. The last administration enacted a $2 trillion tax cut. Overwhelmingly benefit the top 1%, the very wealthy and the biggest corporations.
The 1%.
And
I wish they'd pass. I wish they'd pass a mic. I wish they had given a mic to Bernie specifically for this part, just so he could go the 1%.
Federal deficit.
I think that would have made this a lot better.
They added more to the national debt than any presidential term.
Dude, this guy be making eye contact. Oh shit, this is
In American history. Check the numbers. Folks at home, does anybody really think the tax code is fair? Do you really think the wealthy and big corporations need another $2 trillion tax break?
No.
I sure don't. I'm going to
hope I
keep
can
fighting like hell
stop.
to make it fair. Under my plan, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay additional penny in federal taxes. Nobody.
I think they should. You know what? I think they should develop a gold star system for Joe Biden. I think he's senile enough that we can finally do this. I think. Okay, listen to me. This is my big conspiracy. Okay, this is my plan to take over the United States government. Okay. You get someone like you get Bernie. Okay, you get someone like Bernie. All right. You have him suggest progressive legislation, things like universal health care and things like that. And when Joe Biden's like, no, or whatever, and he's, because he's like, he has to talk to other people or whatever, Bernie says that if he'll do it, that if Joe Biden does this, he gets a gold star. And for every time Joe Biden does something like this, he gets a gold star. In the next State of the Union, okay, we're going to install communism this way. I just want to see Joe Biden walk out covered in gold stars with them like falling off as he is like, carrying like the communist flag or something. I think that's what we need to do. This is my plan.
Not one penny. And they haven't yet. In fact, the child tax credit I passed during the pandemic cut taxes for millions of working families and cut child poverty in half.
Cut the children in half.
Restore that child tax credit.
We're going to cut the homeless in
No
half.
child should go hungry in this country. The way to make the tax code fair is to make big corporations and very wealthy begin
No children should go hungry.
to pay
Ridiculous.
their fair share. Remember in 2020,
Ridiculous.
55
Absurd.
of the biggest companies
Woke
in
Biden.
America made $40 billion and paid zero in federal income tax. Zero. Not anymore. Thanks to the law I wrote and we signed, big companies have to pay a minimum 15%. But that's still less than working people pay in federal taxes. It's time to raise corporate minimum tax to at least 21%.
21? Oh, God. Biden's actually the 21 kid, the
So
21
every
kid in a
big
fucking
corporation
costume.
finally
21.
begins to pay their fair share. I also want to end tax breaks for big pharma, big oil, private jets, massive executive pay when it's only supposed to be $1 million that could be deducted. They can pay them $20 million if they want, but deduct $1 million. End it now. There are 1,000 billionaires in America.
Yeah, that's
You
pretty
know what
gross.
the average federal tax is for those billionaires? No. They're making great sacrifices, 8.2%.
Ooh, yeah.
That's far less than the vast majority of Americans pay.
The zero is
No
actually the right
billionaire should pay
answer.
a lower federal tax rate than a teacher, a sanitation worker, or a nurse.
I think the whole time the camera should have just been like
I propose
deadlocked
minimum
on
tax for
every. I think there
billionaires
should have been a
at
camera for every single
25%, just
Republican,
25%. You know what
just
that would raise?
in their face,
That would raise $500 billion over the next 10 years.
aka Ultra
imagine what
HD
that
on
could do
every
for
drop
America.
of like sweat that
Imagine
comes
a
out of their
future
pores.
with affordable child care. Millions of families can get they need to go to work to help grow the economy. Imagine a future with paid leave, because no one should have to choose between working and taking care of their sick family member. Imagine the future of home care and elder care, and people living with disabilities.
Excuse
so they
me.
can stay in their homes, and family caregivers can finally get the pay they deserve. Tonight,
Mike
let's
Johnson
all
literally
plead
just
once
completely
again
gave up on
to stand up for seniors. Many of my
showing any
friends
support or anything for
on the other
anything
side
about
of aisle
Biden
want to
saying,
put Social Security on the chopping block.
yes, Marjorie Taylor Greene, let's go. No one, you're not allowed to forget. You're not allowed to forget the face Joe Biden made when he saw.
Tries to cut Social Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age, I will stop you.
I love it too because she's just kind of sitting there like, fucking bottom ass bitch.
The working people who built this country pay more into Social Security than millionaires and billionaires do. It's not fair. We have two ways to go. Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the proposal. Oh no, you guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was.
This guy in the bow tie. Oh my god, dude, bro, this isn't middle school. This is a fucking State of the Union. Come on.
Well, that's good to hear. You're not going to cut another $2 trillion for the super wealth. That's good to hear. I'll protect and strengthen Social Security and make the wealthy pay their fair share. Look, too many corporations raise prices to pad their profits, charging more and more for less and less. That's why we're cracking down on corporations that engage in price gouging and deceptive pricing, from food to healthcare to housing. In fact, the snack companies think you won't notice if they change the size of the bag and put a hell of a lot fewer, same size bag, put fewer chips in it. No, I'm not joking.
This is the greatest. I'm glad Biden's speaking on the greatest American tragedy of the modern era, okay? There are fewer chips in my Lay's bag, and that's just unacceptable. I hope Biden brings these sick fucks at Frito-Lay's. I hope he puts them in chains and drags them in front of the public to make an example of them for putting fewer fucking potato chips in my Lay's, okay? Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Criminal. Next thing you know, okay, we're gonna be having all organic food, okay? Next thing you know, you're gonna remove the corn syrup from my American food industry. Nope. Communism. Fucking communism. Food communism.
You probably all saw that commercial on Snickers bars. You get charged the same amount, and you got about, I don't know, 10% fewer Snickers in it.
Unacceptable.
Look,
these people are
I'm
laughing.
also getting rid
There's 10% fewer Snicker bars, and you think that's funny?
of junk fees. Those hidden fees at the end of your bill that are there without your knowledge. My administration announced we're cutting credit card late fees from $32 to $8. Banks and credit card companies are allowed to charge what it costs them to instigate the collection. And that's more, a hell of a lot, like $8 and 30-some dollars. They don't like it. Credit card companies don't like it. But I'm saving American families $20 billion a year with all the junk fees I'm eliminating.
You know, I gotta say, actually, the State of the
Folks at
Union has
home,
not been too bad so far.
that's why the
Honestly,
banks
I
are
don't
so
use-
mad. It's $20 billion
usually
in
watch it,
profit. I'm not stopping there. My administration has proposed rules to make cable, travel, utilities, and online ticket sellers tell you the total price up front so there are no surprises. It matters. It matters. And so does this. In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Oh, you don't think so?
Selfies clips.
Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now.
I personally didn't like that bill, to be honest. At least in terms of, like, what permissions or whatever it would give for the border. I don't know. I always had this trouble. It's an issue that we just kind of have to face as a result of our reality. But, like, fundamentally, I don't give a fuck about, like, immigration, I guess. I give a fuck about it insofar as, like, people are treated well and they have their rights respected and so on as they're going through the process. But, like, again, I guess this is a little idealist of me or whatever, but, you know, fundamentally, I think people should be able to move between countries, states, or whatever without any issue, without any hindrance. Again, it's a little wishy-washy, but, like, you know, you only get one life, and we have a big world that with a lot of beautiful places to visit, and I don't think that we should be forced into a single location ever, really. So it's like, I don't know, I don't, there's that, and then there's a practical reality of, like, okay, we have, like, resource limitations, you know, we have to be able to accurately document and record who's coming into the country so we know who's where, and we can get them the benefits that they need, that, you know, that the government can provide, so they can pay taxes, they can get healthcare, things like that. But I know that this bill was especially hard. Okay, well, I didn't like it for two reasons. One, I didn't like it because it provided a lot of aid to Israel, which, I mean, we're still doing. But I didn't like it because of that. They don't need more fucking weapons and money to be gunning down innocent Palestinians. The other part that I didn't like about it was that it was particularly harsh on the border crisis that we're going through, or whatever, if you want to call it a border crisis, which I don't think you should, but yeah, it's just, I mean, it's not like it's not like shooting it down did any better, because Texas is still getting away with doing whatever they want with those people coming across the border, you know, locking them up, putting barbed wire up, or razor wire up, and stuff like that. So, but I just thought it was really funny, you know, God, the Republican Party made themselves look like such fucking goobers by sponsoring this bill. And then, of course, because Trump told them not to vote for it because he wanted to run on the border issue, you know, they voted it down and it didn't get passed, which, you know, was unfortunate, if for no other reason than, well, they provided aid to Ukraine as well, and we kind of need to keep supporting Ukraine, so. But it's just, I love... The Republicans literally have no spine and they have no principles. You know, they because Daddy Trump said so, they turned and voted against the bill. So it's just funny that
What are you against?
Trump's little henchman.
100 more high-tech drug detection machines to significantly increase the ability to screen and stop vehicles smuggling fentanyl into America. That's killing thousands of children.
Okay, I know the fentanyl issue is a real issue. I understand that it's kind of circulating and causing a lot of overdoses and things like that. However, let's not fucking contribute to the far-right moral panic where fentanyl is the greatest evil that has ever challenged America. First of all, obviously, well, not to wax poetic, but like drugs should be, how do I put this? Drugs should be, most drugs should be legalized and decriminalized and heavily regulated. So that way the flow of drugs is under the purview of the United States government. And that way we can also, manage, well, first we can manage the trade, make sure, we can apply standards. That way we're not ending up with drugs that have been cut or laced with something. That way we can also benefit from it in a tax sense, and it can, and that way it can contribute to the economy. The unfortunate reality is that typically people who are using things like heroin or meth or whatever else are they're not going to get off of it, very easily. So they're probably going to be doing it for a while. So we should probably provide them with the clean, safe tools to do so. It sounds bad. It really does, to be like, oh, well, you got a meth addict. Well, what do you think you should do? Well, okay, give them a clean needle, give them clean drugs, give them a safe, clean place that they can use it. Obviously, that's going to sound bad on the surface, but when you actually use your brain and you look into it a little bit, you realize that a lot of the issues with drug use, with drug users is, well, for one, to get their drugs, they have to go into much more seedier parts of, society. They have to deal with people that are criminal, and they end up getting in circles that kind of drag them further deeper into that realm. The other reality is that a lot of drug users end up homeless. They don't, they end up using dirty drugs that have been laced with fentanyl, for example, that causes overdoses or causes other major health issues. They don't have the money to pay for that. They can spread venereal diseases by sharing equipment like needles. But the reality is, if you give these people, like I said, it looks bad on the surface, but the reality is, if you give these people safe drugs, you give them safe equipment to use them, you give them a safe space to use them where they can be monitored and where they can be helped if they need it, because people who are under the influence of drugs are going to have episodes and stuff. But if you have somebody there to watch them, take care of them, make sure they're clean and healthy while they're using it, or as healthy as you can be while using it. You provide them, of course, with things like mental health assistance, therapy, counseling, things like that, because a lot of drug users are suffering from some sort of mental trauma. A lot of drug addicts, a lot of drug users aren't using because they enjoy using the drug, purely because they enjoy using the drug. It's usually because they end up using as a result of some traumatic event in their life. And does that always excuse it? No, but there's a very strong correlation. It's not always the reason that they use, but it is a pretty big reason why a lot of people end up using. So, you provide, like I said, again, I'm going to repeat myself, you provide them with a clean place to use it, safe place to use it, clean substances to use. If the government takes this stuff into their own hands, manages the regulation, manages the distribution, makes sure that the facilities they're used in are clean and safe and monitored, and there's records kept and things like that, America could benefit hugely. And a great benefit of doing this is that you cut out the cartel. You take away the business from cartels. You take away the drug peddling business from cartels. You disenfranchise them. You take away their power to operate in the United States, and suddenly they're not going to be here anymore. They might go to other countries. They might go to other places and continue their business. That doesn't mean the cartel will suddenly disappear overnight. Maybe they'll still have stragglers left in the states that will be peddling other drugs. It's not a 100% solution. It's not going to just, like I said, make this disappear overnight. But it contributes a much more positive outcome, than, the fucking drug war. What good are you actually doing when you come to people who are on the streets, homeless, using because they're suffering? Their suffering only gets worse every day. The longer they're on the streets, the drugs they're using are dirty. They've been laced or cut with something else. What good are you really doing them when an officer comes by, hits them with a felony charge, and throws them in jail for the night? Now they got a fine they can't pay. They got, they're stuck in a social circle again of criminals, people who, in the sense, like, drug user is a criminal themselves. But when I think criminal personally, I think of someone who's a perpetrator of, like, violent offenses or something like that. And you end up with these drug users who otherwise wouldn't be, mixed up in these crowds end up mixing in these crowds, and it makes it worse. So it's a vicious cycle that feeds into itself. A lot of the harm could be reduced if we just, at the very least, regulated the drugs that come through our country. If we didn't have such a stigma around them. Again, I know it sounds bad on the surface. Meth, heroin, ketamine, things like this, not good substances to use, but at the same time, we don't do anything for ourselves by stigmatizing them. We just don't. We don't do any good, it's not helpful.
This bill would save lives and bring order to the border. It will also give me and any new president new emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border when the number of migrants at the border is overwhelming. The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low, look at the facts.
The Republicans, I swear to God, they just literally cannot help but embarrass themselves. It's so funny. They as much as I hated it, as much as I hated the bill, Biden, his administration, his constituency provided a solution to the issue that a large issue that Republicans seem to have, which is the border. But because the Republicans are disingenuous and they don't actually want to solve the border issue, what they want to do instead is fearmonger about it and use it to propel them within the public eye, and galvanize their supporters. They shot down the bill. They shot down the actual, solution to their issue that they seem to campaign on or prop up their image over. It's just funny. It's embarrassing for them because it demonstrates to everyone, and obviously people who are already in so deep aren't going to care, but it just demonstrates to everyone how little they actually give a fuck about solving the issues they always cry about. They just want to whine. They just want to complain. They just want to cry foul and create moral panics. That's literally all they care about. So when they campaign on issues, don't listen to them. They are disingenuous. They are lying to you to scare you, to freak you out or whatever, so that way you will support them and their agenda. It's always fear with them. It's always a disingenuous appeal to fear.
I know you know how to read.
I don't know if they do, Biden. I think you might need to get the Republicans a summer education program here in this chamber, because I don't think they know how to read.
I believe that given the opportunity for a majority in the House and Senate would endorse the bill as well, a majority right now. But unfortunately, politics has derailed this bill so far. I'm told my predecessor called members of...
I'm sorry, I hate when everybody's like, stop playing politics and let's get this done. Everything is politics. Everything is politics. Okay, your entire job is politics. Don't sit here and be like, oh, stop playing politics. It's all politics. It's all politics. Every single thing you do is politics.
Congress and the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win. He viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him.
But
it's not about him. It's not about me.
Mike Johnson just being like, oh my God, we were so dumb. We shouldn't have canceled. We shouldn't have voted against him.
Be a winner, not really.
Who was that?
Not really.
Is that Marjorie Taylor Greene that's talking? There's no fucking subtitles. It was Marjorie Taylor.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed.
What did she say? What did...
Not really.
Lincoln Riley? Is that what she's saying? God, I wish I had a chat to help me figure it out.
Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, that's what she
said. An innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand. But look, if we change the dynamic at the border.
Okay, do not be mistaken. This Lincoln Riley person who was killed by an immigrant. Please do not be mistaken and think that this is like a broader issue, because it's not. Immigrants commit a lot less crime than just like your average American citizen. This isolated incident doesn't speak to anything. This doesn't mean that illegal immigrants or immigrants in general are just evil people, okay? They're not. They just aren't, okay? It's not they're just it's not like that. But also don't be mistaken, because Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't actually care about this person that was killed by an illegal immigrant. Marjorie Taylor Greene is happy to sit to the side and say nothing about when dozens upon dozens, tens, at this point hundreds of children who've been gunned down during shootings, hundreds of people who have been gunned down during shootings, mass shootings, which we've been suffering consistently throughout the last almost like decade here in America. She doesn't care about that. She is disingenuously weaponizing this person's death by an illegal immigrant's hand. She does not care about people being murdered. She does not care about death or innocent people suffering. She doesn't care, because she is more than happy to support things. She is more than happy to sit here and say nothing about when there are several mass shootings in a row in a single week. Like, it's calmed down a little bit, it seems like, just a little, just a tiny bit. There was a point where I would wake up every other day and there would be another shooting. And it was always in times like this that Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene and her constituency, her friends, or whoever else on her party line are completely dead silent about it. Except for when, they want to, lie and say it was a trans person. But yeah, they don't care. They do not be mistaken by this.
People pay these smugglers $8,000 to get across the border, because they know if they get by and let into the country, it's 6 to 8 years before they have a hearing. And it's worth taking the chance of the $8,000. But if it's only 6 weeks, the idea is it's highly unlikely that people will pay that money and come all that way, knowing that they'll be able to be kicked out quickly. Folks, I would respectfully suggest my Republican friends owe it to the American people, get this bill done. We need to act now.
They're all wearing the button for this lady. Hey, listen, okay? The lady it's a tragic death. I rest in peace. I wish the family well. Obviously, I don't know if they have anything to do with it, but I doubt they do have anything to do with this kind of weaponizing of this woman's death. Yeah, it's funny. They're all wearing the button.
And if my predecessor is watching, instead of paying politics and pressuring members of Congress to block the bill, join me in telling the Congress to pass it. We can do it together. But that's what he apparently here's what he will not do. I will not demonize immigrants, saying they are poison in the blood of our country. I will not separate families.
Okay, I mean, I can't help but mention it. Of course, he, says this about the border, and then we have what's going on in Israel. So, I mean, I don't think he has an issue with separating families, at least Palestinian families.
I will not ban people because of their faith. Unlike my predecessor on my first day in office, I introduced a comprehensive bill to fix our immigration system. Take a look at it. It has all these and more. Secure the border. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, and so much more. But unlike my predecessor, I know who we are as Americans. We're the only nation in the world with a heart and soul that draws from old and new. Home to Native Americans, whose ancestors have been here for thousands of years. Home to people of from every place on earth.
I'm
They
sorry.
came freely.
We have
Some
not
came
treated
in
the Native
chains.
Americans well.
Some
I
came
don't.
when famine struck, like my ancestral family in Ireland. Some to flee persecution. To chase
The Irish
dreams
cabal. Of course, he
that are
mentions the
possible
Irish.
anywhere, but here in America. That's America. And we all come from somewhere. But we're all Americans.
Godspeed. Biden died on my blood pouring out of his mouth.
Look, folks.
Leg chickens off. The
We have a
camera comes
simple
back.
choice. We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it. I'm ready to fix it.
Mike Johnson
Send
in
me
the
the
back.
border bill now.
Let's go.
A transformational moment in history happened 59 years ago today in Selma, Alabama. Hundreds of foot soldiers for justice marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, named after the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, to claim their fundamental right to vote. They were beaten, they were bloody, and left for dead. Our late friend and former colleague, John Lewis, was on that march. We miss him.
I don't think John Lewis is. I really need to fucking educate myself. I do. I really do. I just don't know where to start. I don't know where to go.
Joining us
I want to
tonight.
learn. I just don't know where to go.
Our other marchers,
I sometimes do have
both
to
in the
start.
gallery and on the floor, including Betty Mae Fikes, known as the voice of Selma, the daughter of gospel singers and preachers. She sang songs of prayer and protest on that bloody Sunday to help shake the nation's conscience. 5 months later, the Voting Rights Act passed and was signed into law. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But 59 years later, there are forces taking us back in time. Voter suppression,
Yep.
election subversion,
Yep.
unlimited dark money, extreme gerrymandering. John Lewis is a great friend to many of us here. But if you truly want to honor him and all the heroes who marched with him, then it's time to do more than talk. Pass the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Right Act. And stop denying another core value of America, our diversity across American life. Banning books, it's wrong. Instead of
wrong.
erasing history, let's make history. I want to protect fundamental rights. Pass the Equality Act. And my message to transgender Americans, I have your back.
So I actually... How do I put this? At least in regards to the transgender issue, and like, okay, we've seen a monumental amount of anti-trans legislation come out within the past like few years, and I don't know. There's a larger discourse about whether or not I feel like there's a larger discourse about like how. I don't know how to put this. There is the broader discourse of has Biden been good for trans rights and the LGBTQ community at large? And I have to admit I'm a little conflicted on it. Just because on one hand, obviously having someone like Trump, or specifically Trump in office, would to understate it, be detrimental to the well-being of trans people and LGBTQ people largely. But it's also difficult to really say Biden's done well on those issues too, when he's kind of just sitting by and allowing all of these anti-trans bills to be brought to legislation. Now, because the unfortunate reality is, ideally we do live in a democracy. Sometimes that means things get passed that we don't like. And it does, without, I guess it goes without saying that, like, a lot of these bills have been proposed and passed within red states. So obviously it's like, I don't think, again, it's a difficult issue because it's like, I don't want those bills to pass. I really don't. I don't think adhering to democracy is particularly like a good defense of like allowing these bills to pass, because they do violate human rights. They do target specific individuals or a specific group of individuals. It is, in its own sense, genocidal. And I don't have a problem saying that there is, at the very least, an attempted trans genocide in this country. I mean, shit, we had a gay genocide in the 90s, the AIDS epidemic that was going around, and Reagan and just the U.S. government in general sitting on their hands and not allowing any research, not allowing any funding to go to research to produce some sort of medicine to alleviate the spread of AIDS, or to alleviate the suffering of the gay people or whoever else that caught it, because AIDS is not a gay disease. But anyway, it's just, I go back and forth on it, where at times I think, Biden, while he hasn't been the best for trans rights and LGBTQ rights in general, obviously he's infinitely better than Trump, who, I mean, Biden, I feel like at worst Biden is passive about this stuff. Not to speak to, like, I don't know. I feel like the worst thing is that he's passive about this. He doesn't really talk about it. He doesn't address it. He doesn't do anything to really push against it. And it feels bad to say that that's still better than what Trump would do. Because let's not kid ourselves, Trump would actively take up arms to march against trans people, to remove their rights and target them directly. And then, of course, following trans people it would just be the LGBTQ community broadly, because it may be an issue about trans people right now, but it doesn't matter if it's just trans. It's gonna, once the trans people are effectively removed from their targeting, the Republicans, the conservatives, the right wing, whatever, will go after gay people, bi people, whoever else, just queer people generally. So it's really hard for me to sit here and be like, okay, Biden's been good on it, when he really hasn't. But he's also not been as bad on it as like Trump would be. So it's like, when I see this come up, I get kind of riled up a little bit, because I don't want people to conflate. A huge conflation that I dislike is Biden being as bad as Trump, because they're not comparable, in my opinion. I don't think they're the same. Trump would be deliberately hostile, whereas Biden he's passive about it. He doesn't go out of his way to stop it, but he doesn't also support it. And again, like, I don't think Biden, I mean, it's democracy. Sometimes things happen that you're not going to like as a result of the democracy. Sometimes stupid people are going to vote for stupid shit. Sometimes stupid people are going to vote for harmful shit. And sometimes that's how democracy plays out. But at the same time, I do think Biden has the power to do something, and I think he should do something. I think he should talk about it. I think he should make a directed effort to alleviate a lot of this targeted hatred, a lot of this targeted legislation. But I don't think he should have, like, the power of a dictator to just completely overwrite these things. I don't know. It's something I struggle with personally, so seeing, I'm sorry, I keep pausing and going on tangents, but it's like, I hear Biden be like, we stand for trans people, and a lot of people, I'm not trans, I'm non-binary, I identify as non-binary, so I'm, if I were to suffer anything Okay. If I were to suffer at the hands of anti-trans legislation, it would be tangentially. Because, I mean, I dress in feminine clothing, I put on makeup sometimes, I have piercings and whatnot. So there's a lot of ways in which I could be affected by these same bills. But I would not be affected by them as severely or in the same way as like a literal trans person would be, because that's who they're specifically looking for, even though it can be broadly applied to other groups. But yeah, I don't know. It's something I struggle with. I think Biden should do something, but I don't think he should have the power to dictate the power of a dictator to unilaterally overturn all this. But at the same time, it's like, well, you know, I also support Biden just overturning, or just stacking the court and overturning the Roe v. Wade overturning. So it's like, I don't know. I don't blame trans people for not liking Biden, because he hasn't really done anything for them. He hasn't done. I mean, again, he hasn't gone out of his way to actively harm them, but he also hasn't done anything or exercised any power to put a stop to the harm that's being thrown onto them. So again, I can't blame trans people for not liking him. I just don't like it when people conflate Biden's treatment of this issue to how Trump would treat it if he were president. It's something that irks me. So to any trans people that see this, I understand. Just please be careful when you're talking. I don't want to speak out of turn, but just please be careful when you're talking about this to not try and frame it as though Trump would be comparable or somehow better. Please.
Pass the PRO Act for workers' rights. Raise the federal minimum wage, because every worker has a right to a decent living, more than $7 an hour. We're also making history by confronting the climate crisis, not denying it. I don't think any of you think there's no longer a climate crisis. At least I hope you don't.
No, you better prep yourself.
I'm taking the most significant action ever on climate in the history of the world.
I'm sorry, but there are active
I'm
climate
cutting our
deniers in
carbon
there.
emissions in half by 2030, creating tens of thousands
I'm sorry,
of
we
clean
don't have
energy jobs
time.
like the IBEW.
I'm sorry, Brian, but on climate change, we don't have time to wait till 2030. We don't have time. The world's probably going to be drowning on fire by then.
Is building and installing 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Conserving.
Hey, no talking during class.
America's lands and waters by 2030.
I want a cane like that guy.
Environmental justice fence line communities smothered by the legacy of pollution. And pattern after the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps, I launched the Climate Corps to put 20,000 young people to work in the forefront of our clean energy future. I'll triple that number in a decade. To state the obvious, all Americans deserve the freedom to be safe. And America is safer today than when I took office. Year before I took office,
Ooh, did you hear that? All right.
30%. 30% they went up. The biggest increase in history. It was then, through my American Rescue.
What is he saying?
30% they went up. The biggest increase in history. It was then, through my American Rescue Plan, which every American voted against, I might add, we made the largest investment in public safety ever. Last year, the murder rate saw the sharpest decrease in history. Violent crime fell to one of its lowest levels in more than 50 years.
I don't know what he was saying.
But we have more to do. We have to help cities invest in more community police officers, more mental health workers, more community violence intervention. Give communities the tool to crack down on gun crime, retail crime, and carjacking.
Okay, I'm gonna this is full-throated lefty. I don't really give a fuck about retail crime. I'm sorry. If you see someone shoplifting and it's like food, I don't even care about like shoplifting things people don't need. I just don't fucking care. Like, dude, he shoplifted a toaster. Okay, what harm is he doing to literally anyone but the company? And even then, they're not doing harm to the company a lot of times because guess what? That shit's insured, okay? I guess the only shoplifting that I'd really have a problem with is if it was from like a local business where the money that they get feeds directly into supporting them or like that because like that's I guess that's the only shoplifting I could really ever conceive of being against. And like I don't care. Like I could literally watch someone walk into a Walmart and just clear out the entire electronics section and not give a fuck. Because why? Why should I give a fuck? Am I being harmed? Are the workers being harmed? No. Are the other customers being harmed? Like, oh, what? You don't get your fucking you don't get your Nintendo, Switch. You don't get your fucking Joy-Con that'll break in 3 months from stick drift anyway. It's like no one's actually being harmed here. I guess like again, I don't know. I extreme extreme circumstances bar, obviously if somebody walks into a Walmart, clears the entire aisle of like toilet paper or like baby food or whatever, that's not good because other people aren't going to be able to get that shit for their own homes. But that's like an extreme example. But like just shoplifting in general, I can't. Retail theft, I just can't give a fuck about it 99% of the time. I just can't. It just doesn't matter to me. I worked at this natural food store, and I had this coworker who had this like crazy hero complex. Like she would like drown herself in praise for stopping someone from stealing like a bottle of vitamins. And it's like, why do you care? Why does anyone care? Again, unless they're clearing out the aisle of like essential items that everybody needs, who gives a fuck? Yeah, it's like I personally can't care. I personally can't. If you see someone shoplifting, no, you didn't. Just remember that.
Keep building trust as I've been doing by taking executive action on police reform and calling for it to be the law of the land.
Also, fuck companies. Steal from them. I don't give a fuck. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if Walmart, like, even if the items weren't insured, I don't give a fuck if Walmart loses out in profits. Walmart sucks. I hate corporations. I hate companies. So, fuck it. Why not?
Directing my cabinet to review the federal classification of marijuana and expunging thousands of convictions for the mere possession.
Oh, hold on. This might be base.
Law of the land. Directing my cabinet to review the federal classification of marijuana and expunging thousands of convictions for the mere possession, because no one should be jailed for simply using or have it on their record.
Okay, I saw a lot of people talking about this on Twitter, well, I didn't see a lot of people, but I did see people talking about it on Twitter. A lot of people being like, oh, well, he authored the crime bill, so don't trust and don't believe him. This is just a bunch of baloney. First off, I struggle to give Biden any charity or the benefit of the doubt for anything, okay? Obviously, I think a lot of people do these days for good reason, too. But as far as the weed thing go, I don't think this is hypocritical of him. People can change. I understand he's like 80 now, and people don't really think of 80-year-olds changing. Usually we conceive of them as like set in their ways, but I think this is good. This is unironically a good thing. You can sit here and call him a hypocrite all you want. I don't give if that's your prerogative, go ahead. But the reality of it is this is unironically good. If he goes through and he does expunge marijuana possession for people's records and reclassifies it as not an issue, then that is unironically really good, because there are people, mostly black people, who get thrown in jail for literally just possessing like less than an ounce of weed on their person. I have a little cartridge, because the state I live in, it's legal. I have a little cartridge, a little dab pen, a little vape pen that there's honestly not that much in it. But just carrying that little bit in a state like Idaho or Texas or anything like that can get you jailed for a really long time. It can put a felony on your public records and your criminal records. That can fuck with your jobs. It can fuck with your income. It can do a lot of harm to you. So yeah, going through, expunging these from people's records, reclassifying marijuana down to hopefully no offense, because it's fucking weed, would be a good thing. It would unironically be a good thing. People, you know what, Twitter? You can sit there all you want all day, and you can talk about how he signed the crime bill. It wasn't a good thing that he did, but you know what? It's a good thing that he's doing this. People can change. People's opinions can change. Again, I know he's 80 years old, and we don't really think of old people, that old at least, changing their minds, and he is senile, so... But still, it's good. I appreciate this.
Take on crimes of domestic violence. I'm ramping up the federal enforcement of the Violence Against Women Act that I proudly wrote when I was a senator, so we can finally end the scourge against women in America.
Whamming. Whamming. That's the first clap I've seen out of Johnson for a little while.
Violence I want to stop. With us tonight is Jasmine, whose 9-year-old sister Jackie was murdered with 21 classmates and teachers in elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Very soon after that happened, Jill and I went to Uvalde for a couple of days. We spent hours and hours with each of the families. We heard their message, so everyone in this room, in this chamber, could hear the same message. The constant refrain, and I was there for hours meeting with every family. They said, do something. Do something. Well, I did do something by establishing the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention in the White House. That the Vice President...
Also, never forget, since we're on the topic of like school shootings, again, I'm just gonna repeat myself with these things, but I don't care because it needs to be said. Like, again, Republicans were completely silent after the Uvalde shooting. And, like, just please do not forget that. These people don't give a fuck. I know it's good for Biden's speech, and Biden maybe even genuinely cares, but it's hard watching things like this because at least I'm aware that a lot of the people in that room, specifically the Republicans, just don't care. They don't care about children dying. They don't care about mass school shootings. They don't care about any of that. It's just, yeah.
President is leading the charge. Thank you for doing it. Meanwhile,
Fucking Biden.
My predecessor told the NRA he's proud he did nothing on guns when he was president. After another...
Just to clarify, I think people should have the right to own firearms. I think that's okay. Especially here in America, it's kind of an issue we can't really avoid. We have more guns than people, so guess what? People are going to have guns. But there does definitely need to be regulations on it. We definitely need to keep record of who has guns, because, you know, that's important. We got to know who owns what. Not to take it or anything, obviously, but, like, yeah, we also need background check. We need to do background checks. That needs to be a regular thing. We need to do, I can't remember what they were called. It was like red flag. We have like red flag laws. There's a lot you can do with like with regulating firearms, but I think it's okay for people to have firearms. I'm not some pansy or whatever. I think it's okay for people to have firearms. It's good to have firearms for self-defense and things like that. I don't think people should be going around and having like a closet full of AR-15s. Well, I mean, depends, but I don't know. It's just, yeah.
Shooting in Iowa recently, he said.
Because let's not pretend guns are not the issue, okay? Let's not get things wrong. I don't want to sound like a fucking conservative or anything, but guns are not the issue, okay? It is people who are mentally ill, but the Republicans don't ever frame it like that. They say it's a mental health crisis, but again, they don't care about mental health, so they don't care. To them, it's just something that they can use, but. It is, you know, these school shootings happen because people are mentally unwell. Sometimes it's something you can help, sometimes it's not. But, you know, again, I think we should regulate gun ownership. I think we should have red flag laws, background checks, things like that. But that's not going to solve the issue on its own, and it needs to be coupled with an investment in, like, our mental health institutions, you know, providing... or making it so more people can access things like counseling and therapy, making it a much more normalized thing, because that's the other thing. It has to be a social normalization. You have to get it in the public conscious, get it into a sense of normalcy for people to go to therapy and get counseling. But, you know, conservatives aren't going to do that. And I don't think Democrats are going to do that either, really, unfortunately. I think it's an issue that they can very well, I mean, I wouldn't say the Democrats wouldn't do it, but getting the Democrats to do it would require a lot of work. Be worth the effort, but it would require a lot of work. Whereas with the Republicans, you will never get it done. You will never, ever, ever, ever see any mental health, like any action on mental health from Republicans. So
Asked what to do about it. He said, just get over it. There's his quote. After another shooting in Iowa recently, he said, when asked what to do about it, he said, just get over it. There's his quote, just get over it. I say, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it.
Biden's actually doing, like, he's not slurring as much as I thought. He's not
I'm
stumbling
proud to
or
beat the NRA
anything
when I
like
signed
that.
the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years because of this Congress. We now must beat the NRA again. I'm demanding a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Pass universal background checks. None of this. None of this. I fought the Second Amendment for none of this.
Oh my god, like they're at a family meeting and like I don't know, it's Christmas and they're just kind of sitting in the living room bored as their, you know, wine mom visits with the wine aunt. And it's just so funny. He's checking his DMs from the 13-year-old he's been talking to. It's so funny that they're just like fucking blowhard, talking about wanting to prevent mass shootings. Ugh, God. Lame. Fucking woke. I bet you want those bullets to identify as rubber bullets, Biden.
I taught the Second Amendment for 12 years. None of this violates the Second Amendment or vilifies responsible gun owners. You know, as we manage challenges at home, we're also managing crises abroad, including in the Middle East.
Okay.
I know the last 5 months have been gut-wrenching for so many people, for the Israeli people, for the Palestinian people, and so many here in America. This crisis began on October 7th with a massacre by a terrorist group called Hamas, as you all know.
Oh, no.
1,200 innocent people, women and girls, men and boys, slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. The deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust.
Okay, this is obviously easily going to be Biden, the weakest part of Biden's State of the Union. I mean, we'll see, but...
And 250 hostages taken. Here in this chamber tonight are families whose loved ones are still being held by Hamas.
Are we really going to just
I
glaze
place all
over
the
the amount of
families that will
civilian
not
death
rest until
from
we bring
the
everyone
Palestinian
their loved
side?
ones home. We also...
Of course, this is the one that Mike Johnson stands up on. Oh my god. Hold on, I want them to get a pan of the room. I want to see all of the
We'll
Republicans
also
standing.
work around the clock to bring home Evan and Paul, Americans being unjustly detained by the Russians and others around the world. Israel has the right to go after Hamas. Hamas ended this conflict by releasing hostages, laying down arms, could end it by releasing the hostages, laying down arms, and surrendering those responsible for October
Okay,
7th.
obviously, it wouldn't matter if Hamas laid down their arms. Israel's goal is not to destroy Hamas. It is to destroy Gaza and claim it as their own territory and kill as many innocent Palestinians in the process as possible. So, yeah, just take what Biden says here with a grain of salt.
But Israel has
Maybe a
excuse me,
whole
Israel
fucking
has
grinder of salt.
a added burden because Hamas hides and operates among the civilian population like cowards under hospitals, daycare centers, and all
Oh
the
my
like.
god.
Israel also has a fundamental responsibility, though, to protect innocent civilians in Gaza.
Scathing, Biden. Absolutely scathing.
This war,
Again, gonna glaze over all of the innocent Palestinian civilians that have been slaughtered. I'm gonna glaze over the homes that have been bombed and shelled out. I'm gonna glaze over the hospitals, which have been similarly bombed and shelled out and just leveled gonna glaze over all of the infant mortality, gonna glaze over the the settlers taking people's homes, taking people's things, taking things from people who literally haven't even left their home yet, who haven't been, well, not even left their home, but been chased out of their home by the IDF and the Israeli military forces. Just, yeah, we're just gonna glaze over all of that.
Has taken a greater toll on innocent civilians than all previous wars in Gaza combined. More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, most of whom are not Hamas. Thousands and thousands of innocent women and children.
Okay, hold on. Most of whom who are not Hamas? All of whom? No, I'm not going to say that because, I mean, that 30,000 number, that was... Well, no, isn't that 30,000 number specifically, like, Palestinian civilians? So, yeah, if that's the case, then no Hamas.
And girls and boys also orphaned. Nearly 2 million more Palestinians under bombardment or displacement. Homes destroyed, neighborhoods in rubble, cities in ruin. Families without food, water, medicine. It's heartbreaking.
Okay, this is honestly more of a recognition of the atrocities than I expected.
An immediate ceasefire that would last for 6 weeks to get all the prisoners released, all the hostages released.
Okay, I know it's not ideal, but Kamala Harris was... I know it's not what we want. I know it's not the ideal solution. 6 weeks is still better than nothing. Yeah.
To get the hostages home and ease the intolerable and humanitarian crisis and build toward an enduring, something more enduring.
I don't know. No, actually, I'm going to be a little more full-throated on this one. Fuck you, Biden. You can do more than just a 6-week ceasefire. We need a permanent ceasefire, and you could do more than just call for one. You could cut funding to Israel. You could impose sanctions on them. You could do a lot. And then the fact that Reagan was willing to do more than Biden is honestly, like, just astounding. Biden should be taking every effort to put an end to this, but he won't. Obviously, you know, the airdrop of aid that came by recently was good, but it was in the long run, it's not going to mean anything. And I honestly don't know if there will be even a 6-week ceasefire at this point before the Palestinians are completely eradicated or displaced from their home.
The United States has been leading international efforts to get
Calling
more
this fuck
humanitarian
Biden.
assistance
Sorry.
to Gaza. Tonight,
And this is also, like, obviously, I'm just gonna.
I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day.
I honestly don't give a fuck if we put boots on the ground. Fuck Israel. Well, you know what? I don't like Israel, okay? I'm just gonna keep it at that for now. I don't like Israel. To reflect the sentiment of a not so well beloved figure, I think we should.
Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire. They're announcing they're going to have a crossing in northern Gaza. To the leadership of Israel, I say this: humanitarian assistance cannot be a secondary consideration.
It is.
Or a bargaining chip.
I'm sorry, but it is.
Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority.
They don't care. Israel doesn't care.
As we look to the future, the only real solution to the situation is a two-state solution over time. And I say this as a lifelong supporter of Israel. My entire career, no one has a stronger record with Israel than I do. I challenge any of you here.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I'm the only American president of Israel.
It's not a badge of honor.
But there is no other path that guarantees Israel's security and democracy. There is no other path that guarantees Palestinians can live in peace with peace
there
and
is.
dignity.
Don't worry, there is.
No
You just won't take it because you're a coward, you're spineless.
Israel and all of its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, with whom I'm talking.
Fuck Saudi Arabia.
Creating stability in the Middle East also means containing the threat posed by Iran. That's why I built a coalition of more than a dozen countries to defend international shipping and freedom of navigation in the Red Sea.
Fucking 27
I've ordered
minutes left.
strikes to degrade the
I got
Houthi capability
shit.
and defend U.S. forces in the region. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not hesitate to direct further measures to protect our people and our military personnel. For years, I've heard many of my Republican and Democratic friends say that China is on the rise and America's falling behind. They've got it backwards. I've been saying it for over 4 years, even when I wasn't president. America's rising. We have the best economy in the world. And since I've come to office, our GDP is up, our trade deficit with China is down to the lowest point in over a decade. And we're standing up against China's unfair economic practices.
Yeah, you could call them unfair. I think that's a pretty underwhelming word to use, though.
Partnership and alliance in the Pacific. India, Australia, Japan, South Korea, Pacific Islands. I've made sure that the most advanced American technologies can't be used in China, not allowing to trade them there. Frankly, for all this tough talk on China, it never occurred to my predecessor to do any of that. I want competition with China, not conflict.
China.
And we're in a stronger position to win the conflict of the 21st century against China than anyone else, for that matter, than any time as well. Here at home, I've signed over 400 bipartisan bills. There's more to pass my unity agenda. Strengthen penalties on fentanyl trafficking. You don't want to do that, huh?
Hold on, I want to see if I can
Strengthen
spot
penalty.
Marjorie Taylor Greene in her fucking ridiculous outfit. I guess
On
not. I
fentanyl
can't see her.
trafficking. You don't want to do that, huh? Pass bipartisan privacy legislation to protect our children online. Harness the promise of AI to protect us from peril. Ban AI voice impersonations and more.
Yes.
And keep our truly sacred obligation to train and equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't. That's why the song Support and Help of Dennis and the VA, I signed the PACT Act. One of the most significant laws ever, helping millions of veterans exposed to toxins who now are battling more than 100 different cancers. Many of them don't come home, but we owe them and their families support. We owe it to ourselves to keep supporting our new health research agency called ARPA-H. And remind us that we can do big things, like end
Huge.
cancer as we know it. And
Huge.
we will. Let me close with this. Yay!
Okay, I can't help but chuckle at that.
I know you don't want to hear any more, Lindsay, but I got to say a few more things. I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while. When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation. Between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future. My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality, to respect everyone, to give everyone a fair shot, to give hate no safe harbor. Now, other people my age see it differently. The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution, that's not me. I was born amid World War II, when America stood for the freedom of the world. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, among working-class
Scranton
people
is such a
who
funny
built this
name.
country. I watched in horror as two of my heroes, like many of you did, Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, were assassinated. And their legacies inspired me to pursue a career in service. I left the law firm and became a public defender because my city of Wilmington was the only city in America occupied by the National Guard after Dr. King was assassinated because of the riots. And I became a county councilman almost by accident. I got elected to the United States Senate when I had no intention of running at age 29. Then vice president of our first black president. Now president to the first women vice president. In my career, I've been told I was too young. By the way, they didn't let me on the Senate elevators for votes sometimes. Not a joke. And I've been told I'm too old. Whether young or old, I've always been known.
You are too old,
I've
Joe.
always known what endures. I've known our North Star. The very idea of America is that we're all created equal and deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I won't walk away from it now. I'm optimistic. I really am. I'm optimistic, Nancy. My fellow Americans, the issue facing our nation isn't how old we are, it's how old are our ideas. Hate, anger, revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. But you can't lead America with ancient ideas that only take us back. You lead America, the land of possibilities. You need a vision for the future and what can and should be done. Tonight you've heard mine. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, not take them away. I see a future.
Again, I will point out the hypocrisy of that comment or this aspiration or whatever. You know, the whole anti-trans bills being passed. Yeah.
Where the middle class finally has a fair shot, and the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. I see a future where we save the planet from the climate crisis and our country from gun violence. Above all, I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans. And I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. Woo! And there is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, is that the end? Wait. It's not the end. There's one clip I want more than anything else. I want the Marjorie Taylor Greene reaction. Okay. Well. Alright, well, that was the State of the Union. To kind of wrap up my thoughts on it, let's see here. Well, I think he did an overall pretty good job. He did stutter and slur his words a lot, but that's okay. He actually did. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. In regards to like his stuttering and stuff. obviously, like a lot of the stuff that he was talking about, I agree with. I want a higher minimum wage. I don't want tax cuts for, billionaires, millionaires, blah, blah, blah. I want, a better education system. I think he did pretty good overall. Obviously, like the Gaza stuff, the Israel Palestine stuff, he's. I mean, I don't want to have to rehash that again, but I mean, the reality is that he is doing a lot less for them than he could. He's not stepping on the throttle as much as he could with that one. Um, so I'm not gonna give him credit for any of that. I'm not gonna give him credit for the aid that was dropped. I'm not gonna give him credit for opening a pier to provide more support. I'm just not. He doesn't deserve it. Obviously, it makes him very hard to. I don't know. It's just hard to defend Biden on a lot of things recently, just because of the Palestine stuff. But yeah, overall pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have really all that much to say. I'm just trying to think of like any criticism that I have that stem outside of the conflict with Israel and Gaza. Although calling it a conflict is a little generous. Um, he's old. God, I hope he doesn't die before the presidential election. But yeah, yeah. So that's pretty good. He did pretty good. It was pretty all right. I'm glad that I watched it. I don't usually watch States of the Union just because I usually don't care, but I care. I'm trying to care more. I'm trying to make that effort. I will be back. I gotta use the restroom. So, yeah. Okay, I am back. Woo! Let's go. Alright, so the next thing I want to talk about, coming fresh off the presses, or fresh off the heels of the State of the Union. This has been, like, circulating the past, like, day. Is, the Katie Britt, rebuttal to the State of the Union, which was pretty funny. Hold on one second. Hold on just a moment. Oh my god. Hold on. Oh my. Bro, it's 21 minutes. I'm not watching fucking 21 minutes of this bitch, okay? I'll find a clip instead. Oh. Wait.
America has been tested before.
Okay,
And
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Katie Britt is her. Yeah. Anyway, she looks like a white Karen lady. She apparently was telling a story about, as you know, like the Republicans and conservatives. I don't know why I always like differentiate between the two, but the Republicans were the Republicans have been fear mongering about the border crisis for a little while, specifically with human trafficking. That's always a point argumentation that they frequently use to weaponize to fearmonger with. And Katie Britt, in her rebuttal video to the State of the Union, talked about sitting down with some woman who had suffered, at the hands of human trafficking, which, as much as Republicans fearmonger about it, human trafficking unfortunately does happen. But in that rebuttal video, Katie Britt talked about talking to someone, I don't remember their name, about their experience being human trafficked. Well, turns out Katie Britt might have been exaggerating a little bit. Yeah, she was completely lying the whole time about that, sitting down and talking to that person. It turns out that the person that she talked to about it had talked about her experience during human trafficking over a decade ago, somewhere around 2008. Here, I have it. Here we go. So yeah, so as that was going around, people were clowning on her at first for just being, your typical middle-aged white woman from the suburbs, who likes to play humble, but really has like a $5 million house, and people have been clowning on her kitchen, which is super expensive, obviously. Yeah, but today there's this new video circulating. This guy who seems to have done a little bit of research was seemingly the first to point this out. So let's take a look at the little clip he put out on Twitter.
So you have no doubt seen this woman on your For You page at various points today.
Hell
That
yeah.
is Senator Katie Britt, the junior senator from the state of...
Also, it's like hard for me to tell the difference between a lot of these like Republican. Okay, I don't. Whamming. It's just funny to me though, like a lot of these Republican senators and like House members and stuff, all the women like look kind of cookie cutter-ish, you know, looking like your typical white, middle-aged white. They all look kind of the same. It's so I kind of have a hard time telling the difference between them, and I don't know if that's meant to purposely. I don't know if that's done on purpose to confuse people like me or not. But yeah, it's funny.
Who delivered the Republican response to Joe Biden's State of the Union last night. It was weird, but the part that was the weirdest for me, the part that was the most off, was this.
When I took office, I took a different approach. I traveled to the Del Rio sector of Texas. That's where I spoke to a woman who shared her story with me. She had been sex trafficked by the cartels starting at the age of 12.
So I immediately had questions. Who was this woman? How did she meet her? How did she get her to tell her this story? Also, she seems to be describing something that had happened over the process of years. She said that it started when this woman was 12. She says that she's a woman now, so it seems that some time has passed. How much of this happened on the border? What country did it happen in? Did it happen before Joe Biden was president? Senator Britt, right after that, stated pretty directly what side of the border it happened on, or at least she implies it very strongly.
And we wouldn't be okay with this happening in a third world country. This is the
Of course,
United
she's okay
States
with it
of
happening in a
America.
third world country. She doesn't
So
care.
there's the answer. It happened in the United States. Or did it? So I looked a little bit to see if I could figure out what Senator Britt was talking about here. And I found it pretty easily. Senator Britt has told the story over and over and over again since going on this trip. So all I had to do was look for details of the trip, see if there was any information about who she talked to, and if there was any more information about this case there. And I think I found it pretty easily. So in January 2023, Senator Britt, who had just become the junior senator from
Carla Jacinto Romero.
they were there with a Fox News contributor, Sarah Carter, who often does sort of the xenophobic anti-immigration coverage, as well as a Mexican congresswoman who's become an anti-human trafficking activist, as well as this woman, who the senators identify as Carla Jacinto Romero. All I had to do was click on Carla Jacinto Romero's name, that hyperlink, on Senator Blackburn's page, and it took me to this. This is Carla Jacinto Romero's testimony to Congress from 2015.
Okay, I was off on the
about
years
her
then. Okay.
experiences in
Still.
Mexico. If you scroll down, you see it took place between
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, okay, never
2004
mind, I was
and
right.
2008. Now, I don't know what they put in the textbooks in Alabama these days.
Nothing.
Joe Biden wasn't the president of the United States in 2004.
Are you sure?
2008.
Are you sure,
He was
dude?
the vice president of the United
I'm
States.
pretty
That
sure he was
wouldn't
part of the
happen
dark
until
cabal that
2009.
controls
In
world
2004 to
government,
2008,
okay?
the president of the United States
I think
was
he needs
George
to educate
W.
himself.
The president was Dick Cheney. And none of that really matters here because these events didn't happen in the United States. These crimes didn't take place in the United States or even near the border. They took place in Mexico, in Guadalajara, in Mexico City, and other parts of Mexico. Does U.S. policy have a...
Okay, yeah, so that's the sum of what's happened there. They lied. You know, Katie Britt lied about this experience. She didn't sit down with this woman. She, yeah, it was just a lie. It was a lie the whole way through. Should we watch her State of the Union response? 20 minutes. Nah, not right now. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty funny. Obviously, you know, Republicans lying is not a new thing. So now she's getting clowned on Twitter. So that's funny. I'm glad to see that. I don't think Katie Britt was the only one who worked on it. So it's funny to see, you know, typical Republicans stealing, lying, whatever. Now, there was actually one other thing that I wanted to talk about that was more recent as well. It was the about the guy in North Carolina who had won the gubernatorial race. I don't remember his name. North Carolina governor. Is this his name? Mark Robinson? Mo. Okay, so Mark Robinson, North Carolina governor's race. It turns out he won the nomination, I think it was. Mark Robinson. Yeah, anyway, Mark Robinson won the gubernatorial race for North Carolina, so he is a nominee. This guy, I've seen a few clips, not the greatest person, to say the least. He has frequently spouted the most far-right kind of opinions and beliefs and like conspiracies and stuff. So I kind of wanted to take a look at him and kind of go over his wiki, see what his history is, see where his see what his policies are and whatnot. Obviously, it's not going to be great, but I want to go over it. First, I want to start us out with a wonderful, beautiful clip of him, and I think it'll give a pretty good idea of who he is and what he stands for. Let's get it.
A few days ago and asked her, what America are we going back to make America great again? The one where women couldn't vote or black people were swinging from trees? I would say to him if I was standing in front of him, absolutely want to go back to the America where women couldn't vote. Do you know why? Because in those days, we had people who fought for real social change, and they were called Republicans. A few days ago, and asked her.
So that gives you a pretty good view of him straight off the bat. There are a few more comments which he has come under fire for. Hold on. I was gonna try and see if I can find any more clips on Twitter of him being batshit insane, but I can't. But yeah, couldn't find anything right off the bat, so we're gonna move on. So we're gonna go over his Wikipedia, look at his history real quick, and just see what we can find. Early life and education. Robinson was born in Greensboro, North Carolina, as the ninth of 10 children. Robinson has said that's a pretty full house, god damn. Robinson said his father was abusive and alcoholic and that he and his family suffered from domestic violence. Robinson and his siblings lived in foster care for part of their childhood before moving back in with their mother, who worked as a custodian. After graduating from Grimsley High School, he served in the Army Reserve, later attending North Carolina A&T State University and working in several furniture factories in the Triad region. While working in furniture manufacturing, he took history classes at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro with the goal of securing a degree and becoming a history teacher. So initially a pretty noble goal. I like history, so becoming a history teacher is pretty cool. Not cool that he suffered abuse. Not cool at all. That's probably what's led to shaping a lot of the views that he has today, as he usually does, because conservatives are mentally ill, and sometimes it's just because they're born that way, and sometimes it's because they go through situations like this. But let's look at his political career. It's pretty extensive. We're just gonna go over the Wikipedia. I don't know. I don't think I'll be looking at the sources today on stream at least. But let's see. Okay. Already off the bat, Robinson attributed the beginning of his interest in American conservative politics to his reading of a book by Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, a paragon of American virtue, of course. After which he found out that I was conservative and always had been. Conservative coming out video, guys. Try. Okay. I was gonna make a joke, but you know what? It completely flew out my brain. Anyway, let's see. 3rd, 2018, Robinson attended a meeting of the Greensboro City Council where they debated whether or not to cancel a gun show in the wake of the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. Robinson spoke in favor of gun rights, and the video of his speech went viral after it was shared on Facebook by Mark Walker. Robinson dropped out of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and left his job in furniture manufacturing to focus on public speaking engagements. He was invited to speak at the National Rifle Association of America's annual convention that year. No. Okay, this is not what I was looking for. In 2019, Robinson entered the Republican primary in the election for Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina. After the finance reporting period ended, he won the nomination clearing 3% threshold to avoid a primary runoff, blah, blah, blah. He faced Democratic nominee Yvonne Lewis Hawley in the general election in November in a race in which either Robinson or Hawley would become North Carolina's first African-American lieutenant governor. Robinson was elected, becoming the second black person ever elected to the North Carolina Council of State. Political views and remarks. Okay, let's see. Obtained incomplete information on his campaign contributors. Campaign finance watchdog Bob Hall identified several questionable expenditures in Robinson's campaign reports, including $186 for medical bills and for 2,844 campaign clothes and accessories. Of course, Mark Robinson, Republican, would siphon campaign funds to pay for his personal finances, or to fund his personal finances. Yep, the campaign did not explain how these expenditures were campaign related. Robinson's reports also stated that Robinson's wife spent $4,500 for campaign clothing, but gave no details. Reports also stated that Robinson withdrew an unexplained $2,400 in cash, an apparent violation of a state law requiring all candidate cash payments over $50 to be accompanied by a detailed description explaining what the donation was for. Okay. Robinson's campaign blamed clerical errors. Yeah, okay. Alright. No one's surprised that he fucking basically just lied and took the money from his supporters to pay for his fancies. Robinson promoted his persona as a brash and unfiltered conservative culture warrior, as they always are. He refuses to be politically correct. He opposes abortion, of course, promotes climate change denial, of course, and opposes the legalization of recreational marijuana. I feel like that's kind of a lower order issue compared to other things. He has indicated that he wants to remove science and social studies from 1st through 5th grade curriculum. Jesus Christ, this dude just wanted to kneecap toddlers, I swear. God, like, it's so funny that I don't know. Is it really necessary to point out the hypocrisy at this point? But Jesus, wanting to get rid of social studies and science classes from 1st through 5th grade curriculum, that's pretty fucking insane. Abolish the State Board of Education and expand charter schools and school voucher programs, potentially supplanting the public school system. Okay, so obviously this is part of an effort on him, this is an effort from him on the part of the Republican Party to take away education from young people or just people in general, because obviously the more well-educated you are, the more likely you are to be progressive or left-wing or what have you. Republicans are threatened by, education. They're threatened by educated people. So they look to dismantle it in whatever way they possibly can. Let's move on to this lovely section called the anti-Semitic remarks section. I just love that. Love that. An entire dedicated. I hope. Let's stop talking about my racist past and talk about my racist future, okay? Anyway, Robinson's past anti-Semitic comments have drawn scrutiny and condemnation. Prior to running for lieutenant governor, he frequently made Facebook posts that invoked anti-Semitic stereotypes and downplayed the harms of Nazism, of course. He claimed that the Marvel movie Black Panther was created by an agnostic Jew and put to film by satanic Marxists. Okay. That was only created to pull the shekels out of your farts pockets, using a Yiddish word for black people. Okay. Yeah. So far, we're pretty on course for what I expected. Robinson also appeared in an interview with fringe pastor Sean Moon, who claimed that he planned to become king of the United States. In the interview, Moon claimed that the Rothschild family was one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and promoted the anti-Semitic conspiracy theory of a cabal of Jewish international bankers that rule every country's central bank. Jewish question. Let's go. Okay, yeah. Literally, like... It's just so tiring and so old hat to just be like, oh, so surprised that this is who the conservatives or the Republicans would choose to champion their beliefs and their movement. Like, ooh, what a shocker. It gets to a point where it's so absurd, and people have said it so often that it's beyond redundant. I'm just trying to inform myself on hating this guy, Robinson's statements, as well as his refusal to apologize for or retract them, drew much concern from the leaders of the North Carolina's Jewish community, as well as criticism from the Jewish Democratic Council of America and the Republican Jewish Coalition. So I just kind of step back a little, or come back a little bit in his remarks of being king of the United States. As always, these people are deeply megalomaniacal. They view themselves as like the superior to any and all people around them. And he's making one hell of an effort too at being one of the good ones, so to speak, because obviously as a conservative black vote or a black conservative, it's not like you're suddenly free from a lot of the stereotypes and prejudice and bigotry that conservatives place on other black people. It's just that now you can act as like a token character that they can protect themselves with. So let's see. Robinson endorsed Moon's claim as exactly right. Robinson's statements, as well as his refusal I already read that. Robinson declined to publicly apologize for any of his remarks, although he said he privately apologized to local Jewish leaders in a meeting in 2021. Also, he described himself as a brash and unfiltered conservative culture warrior. They all do. They all are these pariah or these martyrs who are dying on the hill of fighting the woke mind virus and the politically correct progressive left. They all want to live this life of like, they all fantasize the idea of being a culture warrior. I don't know. They always put themselves on this pedestal of like this martyrdom or this as a pariah, as a social pariah who's like being shouted down for daring to call out the woke agenda, the color, the LGBTQIA plus alphabet soup agenda. And it's like, I know he thinks he's special and he is bad, but he's not exceptional, for the kind of people that he, represents. Let's see. In 2022, Robinson said that his Facebook post about Black Panther was the only time I've ever apologized for anything I put on Facebook, and said, I knew the truth of what I was trying to say, but I should have chosen different words. Yeah, again, it's like he's not actually denouncing the sentiment. He's just saying that I should have been more optically effective. In October 2023, after Hamas attacked Israel, Robinson said he supported Israel, and when asked about his past anti-Semitic comments, said, I've never been anti-Semitic. There have been some Facebook posts that were poorly worded on my part, did not convey my real sentiments, and I have addressed those issues and moved on from those issues. Of course, gotta toe the party line, gotta support Israel. I mean, I think it's worth pointing out that, frankly, I mean, like, Netanyahu is probably anti-Semitic, the same as this guy. This guy is still anti-Semitic, by the way. He is 100% anti-Semitic. It's just, he's also Zionist. He's also a Zionist, or at least has to toe the party line in being a Zionist. So he's going to sit here and, disingenuously twist his own words to depict himself in a forgiving light and, all that good stuff. Let's see. When asked if he apologized, Robinson said, I apologize for the word, not necessarily for the content, but we apologize for the wording. Okay, yeah, literally just an admission that it's all just an optical game. Robinson's opponents in the gubernatorial election questioned the sincerity of the apology and called his prior statements hate speech and anti-Semitism, which, yeah. March 2023, more of Robinson's past social media statements emerged, including Facebook posts appearing to call the figure of 6 million Jews perishing in the Holocaust into question. Cool. For example, Robinson wrote, this foolishness about Hitler disarming millions of Jews and then marching them off to concentration camps is a bunch of hogwash. And there is a reason the liberal media fills the airways with programs about the Nazi and the 6 million Jews they murdered. Both Democrats and Republicans criticized Robinson's statements. Again, gotta point it out, a lot of the Democrats who criticize Robinson's statements, probably genuinely, ethically against them. The Republicans who criticize Robinson for his statement are actual genuine ethical issues or ethical criticism. It's just an optical consideration. In a June 2021 speech at a Seagrove, North Carolina church, Robinson disparaged transgenderism and homosexuality, saying there's no reason anybody anywhere in America should be telling any child about transgenderism, homosexuality, any of that filth. And yes, I called it filth, and if you don't like that I called it filth, come see me and I'll explain it to you. Hearkening to the recent clips that were circulating about the, I don't remember where the trial was. I think it was in Tennessee or something like that, in regards to the next Benedict death, where the state senator or whatever literally just called LGBTQ people, queer people, filth, just openly. So good to see that that's a common belief here. Let's see. In the same speech, he called for an end to the separation of church and state in public schools. Of course, in October 2021, after Robinson's speech was brought to light by Right Wing Watch, Democratic State Senator Jeff Jackson called for Robinson to resign, and Governor Roy Cooper's office said that it's abhorrent to hear anyone, and especially an elected official, use hateful rhetoric that hurts people in our state's reputation. North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein made similar comments. The Biden administration, in a White House press office statement, condemned Robinson's words as repugnant and offensive and said that a leader's role is to bring people together and stand up for the dignity and rights of everyone, not to spread hate and undermine their own office. The following month, Robinson said that heterosexual couples are superior to gay couples because the latter cannot conceive a child together. Robinson compared homosexuality to cow manure, maggots, and flies, explaining that the latter all serve a purpose in God's creation, whereas with homosexuality, Robinson remarked, if homosexuality is of God, what purpose does it serve? What does it make? What does it create? It creates nothing. On February 3rd, 2024, Robinson said he was in support of arresting transgender persons for using a restroom not identified with their birth sex, and he also said that transgender people should find a corner outside somewhere if they need to use a public restroom. Yeah, that's pretty, I mean, I guess I'm going to come out and say it. I don't think any state representative, any person who holds official office, regardless of in their state or the federal, people with beliefs like this just shouldn't hold offices like this. They just really shouldn't. There's literally no benefit that can be derived from having someone like him in power. Other controversial remarks on his Facebook page, which is more than Robinson's post. Muslims, former President Barack Obama, and African Americans. Yep, of course, he's a black guy, black Republican who talks about black Democrat voters and compares them to slaves on a plantation. We've heard that one 1,000 times. Robinson accused people who support this mass delusion called transgenderism of seeking to glorify Satan. Robinson called Obama a worthless anti-American atheist and posted birther memes, accused American Muslims of being invaders, of course, who refuse to assimilate to our ways while demanding respect they have not earned, of course. Called Michelle Obama a man and disparaged Joy Behar and Maxine Waters in crude terms. I think it's really funny, personally, that it's just like the typical Christian evangelical or whatever. They want to talk about like Muslims and stuff having to integrate into our culture and like adopt our religions or whatever, and saying that like they haven't earned the respect that they demand. It's like, dude, you haven't earned the respect either. You demand respect, but you don't deserve it, Let's see. Oh, this is nice. After the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting, Robinson wrote that homosexuality is still an abominable sin, and I will not join in celebrating gay pride. Cool. In 2020, Robinson asserted that the coronavirus was a globalist conspiracy to defeat Donald Trump, of course, and dismissed the threat of the COVID-19 pandemic, writing, the looming threat I'm most worried about is socialism. In 2022, after U.S. Speaker House Nancy Pelosi's husband was violently assaulted at his home, Robinson made light of the attack and posted falsehoods about it. Yeah, okay, I don't know. I really need to go over the rest of this, honestly. Well, hold on. What's this? After swearing in office, Robinson began focusing on educational issues, particularly with regards to the appropriateness of instructional and reading materials available to children enrolled in schools. On March 22nd, 2021, he launched the FACTS, Fairness, Accountability in the Classroom for Teachers and Students task force through his office's website. The 12-member task force was to field reports of political bias in instruction in public schools. Of course, when they talk about political bias, they're not talking about conservative political bias. They're talking about progressive political bias. Obviously. So they're, yeah. The task force was later expanded to 15 members. The task force failed to comply with the state open meeting law by maintaining records of its meetings or transactions. The lieutenant governor's general counsel argued that the task force was not eligible to do so, as it was not a public body and existed only to advise the lieutenant governor's office. The chief attorney of the General Assembly's Legislative Analysis Division disagreed, saying that the board met the criteria under state law for being considered a public body. Further ambiguity surrounded the task force's legal status, as state law did not explicitly authorize or prohibit lieutenant governors from creating their own official boards. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I mean, it's not really important to go into the full depths, but I think it's pretty easy to say that this guy's like a horrible person, and we really should not have people like him in power. If you're in North Carolina, I don't think he's won, but I think he's like the leading nominee or whatever for North Carolina right now. Um, it's just unfortunate we're seeing this a lot more often, where people like him get into offices of power, and they just take it for a ride. They do whatever they want with it, and they don't really face any backlash, and it's kind of maddening. And I wish for, I wish they would, but a lot of people wish they would. So that just about does it for today. I was gonna try and play some Valheim on stream, but I'm running up against the clock now. Definitely streamed for a lot longer than I thought it would, so that's good. Yeah, so I will be trying to stream tomorrow. It will probably be, well, I'll try to find something to go over, but it'll probably be mainly just playing some Valheim, playing whatever games, just chilling and relaxing. Nobody came out for, well, nobody got in the chat, but that's okay. We all start somewhere. Hopefully one day we'll get to more than 5 viewers, but we got to start at 1 first. So, yeah, State of the Union was pretty all right. Kait Britt is a silly little goober, and the North Carolina governor or gubernatorial man or whatever, he might be governor right now, I don't know, but yeah, he's a piece of shit. So anyway, that's the end of the stream. Stay safe out there. Stay healthy. Stay wise. And thank you.